receipts. Headlines fine, but we read past the tweets. If it's news, if it's nasty, breaks it down. Cause the truth hits different when the facts come out. Scrolling through the chaos, everybody's got a take. But Steve's in the live with the sources on display. No rumors, no drama, no somebody said. Just what's proven, what's solid, what's actually been read. He's calling out the claims, separating real from fake. Cutting through confusion like a clean earthquake. Current events, yeah, he's got that mapped. If it's not verified, it's getting unwrapped. So drop your questions, drop your doubts. Steve's here sorting all the truth from the cloud. No panic, no spin, no agenda to flatter. Just one simple rule, facts still matter. Facts still matter, say it louder, say it louder. Truth cuts through all the noise, that's power. Steve's in the chat with the real-time data. Drop that spin, we'll fact check it later. Facts still matter, yeah, we're keeping receipts. Headlines fine, but we read past the tweets. If it's news, if it's now, Steve breaks it down. Cause the truth hits different when the facts come out.
Good morning. Welcome to What the Fuck Wednesday, following another Taco Tuesday. We'll get into all that. Starting a few minutes early today. We appreciate you guys joining us. We know you got many choices to make every single day, and we're so grateful you choose to spend some time with us. The reason we started early is because apparently there is a press conference from the Department of Defense with Pete Kegsbreath and General Raisin Kane to update us on whatever the events of yesterday were. We're going to try to unpack it this morning. We're sort of efforting to confirm. There's been some debate as to whether or not this presser is going to happen, but we wanted to be prepared. It's supposed to start at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be there. So here's the deal. We have a lot to cover on that. And once we get to the press conference, we'll kind of go back and talk about the events of yesterday. I do want to remind folks that there's a gifting goal today. Tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring. Please participate. Help us get out to the FYP friends. We had a lot of restrictions yesterday for some reason, and it was you. Thanks to you all for helping us stay relevant, stay current. We are still marching towards our 25K goal for the Do Something Tour. You want to participate, you can find all the details, various pay apps at Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. We are marching towards 10K, big milestone for us. If you want to participate, $1 a day would be fantastic. There is a link in the link tree that's in my bio that will take you to the Discord. If you've not yet, good morning, Laverne. If you've not yet joined our Discord, please consider doing so. For some reason, the link does not work, which does happen on occasion. You can either reach out to one of our amazing moderators and or just copy the link, post it into a browser, and assuming you have the Discord app installed, it will open automatically. All kinds of other great items available in the link tree, including a link to our merch store, which is Facts HQ or at Factsstillmatter, or I should say Factsstillmatter.site, including Traitor to the Patriarchy shirt. You can trade to make sure Traitor to the Patriarchy shirts. All kinds of resources there. All kinds of great items, especially as we approach protest season. Not here, because it was 20 degrees last night, and we got another couple of inches of snow. RTP take note. Early is on time is late is unexpected. Unacceptable, yes. Never late. My father used to always tell me 10 minutes early is 5 minutes late. So I've always had that in my brain. So you'll notice that we start at 7:59 normally every single day. That goes back to my radio days when I used to have to hit the post. If you know, you know. Anyway, thank you all for being here. We're just kind of waiting to see what happens. Then people are going to show up as they do. I just appreciate you guys being here. Anyway, before I get into the events of yesterday, maybe I'll fill you guys in on my meeting with my senator yesterday. So I got invited to a roundtable session. I'm watching. Let's see. Looks like we're about ready to start here, guys. Hang on one second. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be streaming this presser from the Pentagon. Looks like it's going to be Pete Hegseth, joined by General Raisin Kane. They will update us. I'll talk through that. I'll be watching. I can multitask. Be surprised. Anyway, I got invited to this roundtable yesterday. Hang on. What are they doing? They're trying to alert us as to the timing. Okay, I'm on it. I got invited to this roundtable yesterday with one of my senators, Peter Welch. Peter Welch is a good man. He served in the state legislature for around 20 years. He's been an advocate for indigenous rights to Native Vermonters. He's been part of education reform. He has stood up and gotten money, emergency funding for emergency services. He's helped teachers' retirement funds in the state. He's been a very influential politician in our state, and he's a respectable senator. He's a moderate. And shocker that I challenged him a bit yesterday, because it was the same moderate script. Questions were about, his opening statement was about, the things the presidents are doing are just not normal. And I kind of immediately interrupted. I said, well, the things the president's claiming and talking about are war crimes, and we need to be talking about it as if they're war crimes. And then all of a sudden that kind of turned into pushing for progressive action. And he made a statement that, we're in the minority in the Senate, our hands are tied. And I'm like, no, your hands are not tied. You've got the bully pulpit. You're one of 100. You have opportunities to remind people. And I mentioned to him with the crowd that was in there, shocker that I kind of took over the room. But anyway, I reminded folks that were in there that the reason that Democrats are likely going to win the House and likely going to win the Senate is not necessarily because people like Democrats. That is the ultimate harm reduction election potentially, and people despise Republicans and despise the Trump administration. We've got evidence of that based on what happened in Georgia last night. We didn't expect that seat to flip, but it was a massive swing to the left in votes. Congratulations, Wisconsin. You put another liberal on the Supreme Court there. So all these warning signs are there. So I just reminded him, I said, people want fighters. We want people to go to DC, and we want people to fight. And I could tell the resistance from him. The room was clearly divided. There were moderates there and there were progressives there, but the moderates themselves were starting to swing a little bit to the conversation. In fact, many of them were asking me questions. Shocker. It was a great day. I mean, I'm very fortunate. The privilege is not lost on me that I have this kind of access to my elected officials. I mean, there were 25 people there. That was it, in a circle. I think I even have a picture. You can see how tiny the room was. Here you go. It's a perfect example. That was the setup. I mean, we're talking grassroots politics. I think I have another photo too. Yeah, I'm sitting next to the Senator Welch, right? Of course, I got a front row seat. But my point is that over the course of the hour plus, it went over a little over an hour. I was approached by somebody on his campaign staff and got invited to a policy summit. So it was an effective day. And I just, again, if you have an opportunity to go and speak to your elected officials, go and speak. I didn't ask questions that you would normally ask. I will push on shit. I'm not gonna. It's just, I approach this as if I'm part of the media. And yesterday I was. All right, here we go. Here's the presser, and I will shut up. They're just about to step up. Okay, while we're waiting. Again, the opportunity that I have, it's not lost on me. The fact that I got invited to, I could not have asked for a better outcome to literally be invited to a policy summit. I was not expecting that. And actually a couple other people in the audience approached me as well. And I had this thought, and I don't know, it may be a fleeting thought, but I guess I'll say this publicly. Primarying Senator Welch. Maybe that's me. I don't know. It's been in my head for a few days, only because I think that he's got strong support here. There's never going to be a Republican that's likely going to represent us in the U.S. Senate. The last one was James Jeffords, and then he went and he became an independent. And it's very unlikely. We often, the unique part about our politics here is, thank you, Dr. Dick, I appreciate you. The unique part about our politics, and Dr. Dick knows this, is that we very often elect Republicans to the governorship. And Phil Scott's a decent man, right? He's we have our disagreements on things politically, and that's how it should go. But he's a good man. He's done a lot for the environment here, et cetera, et cetera. And so he's likely going to go down. He will go down in history as one of the first Republicans to come out publicly against Donald Trump in the first administration. So there's that. There's that. Anyway, I don't know. It's a thought that popped into my head. I've got a lot going on in my life, and maybe go into this without an expectation. Here we go. We're going to go to Operation Epic Fury. I'll shut up. Thank you, Switch Raiders.
Iran has been a threat to the United States and the free world for 47 years. Chants of death to America, targeting our people, killing Americans, lying and blackmailing their way toward a nuclear weapon, so they thought. No longer. Not on our watch. Other presidents marked time and kicked the can down the road. President Trump made history. From the strike that took out Qasem Soleimani, to tearing up the disastrous Obama-Iran deal, to the precision campaign that obliterated Iran's nuclear sites in Operation Midnight Hammer, to the decisive military victory we just achieved in Operation Epic Fury. No other president has shown the courage and resolve of this commander-in-chief. President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President Truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory. By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days,
This is full-on propaganda.
one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory. We untied just a fraction of our strength, and Iran suffered a devastating military defeat. Together with our Israeli partners, America's military achieved every single objective on plan, on schedule, exactly as laid out from day one. Iran's Navy is at the bottom of the sea, whether it's the Soleimani class, their frigate class, their prized drone aircraft carriers, submarines, mine layers, sunk. Iran's Air Force has been wiped out. Iran no longer has an air defense, any sort of a comprehensive air defense system. We own their skies.
Even though our fighter jets
Their missile
were shot
program
down
is
last week.
functionally destroyed. Launchers, production
What?
facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated. And almost completely ineffective. Iran shot hundreds and hundreds of missiles and one-way attack drones at our aircraft carrier. They were obsessed with it, and they never got even close. Every single one of those shots easily shot down miles and miles away from the Abe Lincoln. They were blowing ammo into Fantasyland. Contrast that with, most significantly, in last night's wave of more than 800 strikes, we finished completely destroying Iran's defense industrial base, a core pillar of our mission objective.
Pete, you've never let anybody
What little
finish.
they have left buried in bunkers is all they will have.
I may not carry this whole thing, guys, because this is fucking nonsense.
Command and control is so decimated they can't really talk and coordinate. So they still may shoot here and there, but that would be very, very unwise. But they can no longer build missiles, build rockets, build launchers, or build UAVs. Their factories have been razed to the ground, set back in historic fashion. You see, had Iran refused our terms, the next targets would have been their power plants, their bridges, and oil and energy infrastructure. Targets they could not defend and could not realistically rebuild. It would have taken them decades, and we were locked and loaded. They couldn't defend against it. President Trump had the power to cripple Iran's entire economy in minutes. But he chose mercy. He spared those targets because Iran accepted the ceasefire under overwhelming pressure. The new Iranian regime understood that a deal was far better than the fate that awaited them. This new regime just happened to look at what happened to their predecessors. Their top leadership was systematically eliminated. The previous Iranian supreme leader, dead. The Supreme National Security Council Secretary, dead. The Supreme Leader Office Advisor, dead. The Supreme Leader Military Office Chief, dead. The Defense Minister, no longer with us. The IRGC Commander, dead. The Armed Forces General Staff Commander, dead. The Intelligence Minister, dead. The IRGC Navy Commander, no longer here.
Okay. I think that's about enough of that. I kind of expected it. I mean, it's turned into this entire this is propaganda on full display. The Department of Defense, led by the assistant manager to the assistant manager to the assistant manager. It's interesting too because we got a bit of a warning from TikTok. It said share responsibly, confirm sources before sharing and engaging with content. So he is speaking to one audience and one audience alone, and that would be his boss and his MAGA base. So I want to get into the specifics of yesterday because, of course, it started on Easter Sunday with the president, and his just chaos and his fuck you, open the strait. And then yesterday morning, it began with the end of civilization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And over the course of the day, as we talked about yesterday, the expectation was that there would be some type of resolution. Now, the way that the conservative right, the MAGA right in particular, and the Trump administration are now spinning this is that Iran caved. You guys know me, right? We will approach this objectively. So I want to go back a couple of things to the statements made on Truth Social by the president, and this is very telling. This will tell you exactly. It is actually. Let me change this real quick so that we can have an appropriate background because I feel it's more relevant. There. Okay. So on Truth Social, there's a statement, and he's criticized CNN for this particular statement, but yet he posts the statement on Truth Social himself. This is the statement that the president of the United States. This is a statement from Iran, and I've got more details. This is just one of the statements that they issued, right? And the president retruthed this as if this is a flex. I don't know, but here's the statement. This is from Tehran specifically yesterday. On behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran, I express gratitude and appreciation for my dear brother, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Sharif, and Field Marshal Munir, for their tireless efforts to end the war in the region. In response to the brotherly request of PM Sharif in his tweet, and considering the requests by the U.S. for negotiations based on its 15-point proposal, as well as announcement by POTUS about acceptance of the general framework of Iran's 10-point proposal as a basis for negotiations, I hereby declare on behalf of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, if attacks against Iran are halted, our powerful armed forces will cease their defensive operations. For a period of 2 weeks, safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces and with due consideration of technical limitations. That is from Syed Abbas Araghchi, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Islamic Republic of Iran. That was posted by the president on Truth Social. The basis for this tweet or truth or the reposting of this truth is that the United States is accepting the 10-point proposal from Iran as a basis for this ceasefire. The biggest component is opening of the Strait of Hormuz, which was already open. So I have a few other things that I want to read, but let's go back. Let's specifically talk about what Iran has asked for in this plan. And again, the president, here it is, the announcement by the president, because he did announce it. Let me find that Truth Social post first. This is news in real time, okay? It's 1:51 minutes ago. Let me go back in time here. Okay. So this is from last night. Is this the one I want? There's a couple of them. So give me a minute. I'm gonna put them in order for you. So the criticism of CNN for sharing the statement that the president shared is ironic, but here we go. Okay. This is the statement from the president. This is last night at 6:32 p.m.
Based on conversations with Prime Minister Sharif and Field Marshal Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran, and subject to the Iran Islamic Republic agreeing to complete, immediate, and safe opening of the strait.
Which, by the way, the strait was already open. It wasn't closed until the man-child decided to attack Let's be very clear about that. Okay.
Complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate.
So just to be clear, just to be clear, the United States under Donald Trump and Pete Kegsbreth and Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, etc., are negotiating peace on Iran's terms. Yep.
We received a 10-point proposal from Iran, and we believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of past contention have agreed to between the U.S. and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. On behalf of the U.S. United States of America as president and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT.
Okay, let's be objective. All right, let's be objective. We all want this to end, right? We want this to end. It has not stopped the gas prices going up because they're now at $4.19, up 3 cents since yesterday. So let's be clear. It's going to take a long time for that to recover. This was a total taco move. He knows that his support for the war within his own party was crumbling. He knows that he has caused this economic impact. Because here's the ironic part about this is MAGA talking about gas prices. They blamed Joe Biden for gas prices going up, but they're not blaming Donald Trump. So we'll talk about that later. All right, so let's follow this thread line now. All right. After that post, he posted the statement that I just read for you, retweeting what the Iranian government stated. Then he said this. There was a statement regarding a false statement linked to a statement made by the Iranian government. I'm going to read to you that full statement. In fact, why don't I just do that now? I found this full text. This is from Iranian officials. This came out from the Iranian Supreme National Security Council. This was issued last night as in anticipation of this potential ceasefire. The enemy in its cowardly and illegal and criminal war against the Iranian nation has suffered an undeniable, historical, and crushing defeat. In this plan, America is fundamentally committed to guaranteeing non-aggression, the continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, the acceptance of enrichment, the lifting of all primary and secondary sanctions, the termination of all resolutions of the Security Council and the Board of Governors. This goes back to previous presidents. Anytime a president, like in the last 25 years, any sanctions against Iran, they want removed, okay? The acceptance of enrichment, the lifting of all primary and secondary sanctions, the termination of all resolutions of the Security Council and the Board of Governors, the payment of Iran's damages, the withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region, and the cessation of war on all fronts, including against the heroic Islamic resistance of Lebanon. We congratulate all the people of Iran on this victory and emphasize that until the details of this victory are finalized, there remains a need for steadfastness and prudence of officials and the maintenance of unity and solidarity among the Iranian people. Islamic Iran, along with brave mujahideen of the resistance in Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, and occupied Palestine, has dealt blows to the enemy over the past 40 days that the global historical memory will never forget. Iran and the axis of resistance, as representatives of honor and humanity against the most savage enemies of mankind, have given them an unforgettable lesson after a historic battle. They have so crushed their forces, facilities, infrastructure, and all their political, economic, technological, and military assets that the enemy is now plunged into collapse and desperation, seeing no path before it other than surrender to the will of the great nation of Iran and the honorable axis of resistance. On the first day, when the criminal enemies of Iran began this oppressive war, they imagined they would succeed in complete military dominance over Iran in a short time and force Iran to surrender by suddenly creating political and social instability. They thought Iran's missiles and drone fire would be quickly extinguished and did not believe that Iran could deliver such a powerful response beyond its borders and across the entire region. Global evil Zionism had convinced the ignorant president of America that this war would finish Iran, allowing them, after removing this last bastion of humanity and mankind, to comfortably commit any crime against anyone they wished from then on. They dreamed of partitioning dear Iran, plundering its oil and wealth, and ultimately leaving Iranians immersed in chaos, instability, and insecurity for many long years. The brave warriors of Islam and their courageous allies in the axis of resistance, despite their hearts being wounded and torn by the martyrdom of their Iman, decided, relying on Almighty God and following the Lord and Master of Martyrs, to give these enemies a historical lesson once and for all. They chose to take revenge for all previous crimes and create conditions where the enemy would forever cast away the thought of aggression against Iran, fully tasting the flavor of humiliation and abasement before the great nation of Iran. With this strategy and relying on the unprecedented political and social unity established within the country, Iran and the resistance initiated one of the heaviest hybrid battles in history against America and the Zionist regime, achieving all the objectives designed for this conflict during this period. Iran and the resistance almost completely destroyed the American military machine in the region. They dealt crushing and profound blows to the vast infrastructure and facilities that the enemy had built and stationed around the region over the years for this war against Iran. In regional dimensions, they imposed extensive casualties on the criminal American army, and within occupied territories, they delivered heavy and shattering blows to the enemy's forces, infrastructure, facilities, and assets. They so constrained the field on all fronts that not only were none of the enemy's main objectives realized, but the enemy realized approximately 10 days after the start of the war that it would no way have the capability to win this war. For this reason, it began attempting to establish contact with Iran and requesting a ceasefire through various channels and methods. The honorable nation of Iran must know that by the grace of their children's struggle and their historic presence on the scene, the enemy has been pleading for over a month for the cessation of the fierce fire of Iran and the resistance. However, the country's officials, because it has been decided from the very beginning of the war, would continue until objectives were achieved, including the enemy's regret and desperation and the removal of long-term threats in the country, gave a negative response to all these requests. And the war continued until today, which is its 40th day. Furthermore, Iran has so far rejected several deadlines presented by the President of the United States and continues to emphasize that it grants no importance to any type of deadline from the enemy. We now give tidings to the great nation of Iran and that almost all war objectives have been realized, and your brave children have driven the enemy to a historic helplessness and a lasting defeat. Iran's historic decision, backed by the unified support of the entire nation, is to continue this battle for as long as necessary until its massive achievements are consolidated and new security and political equations are created in the region based on the acceptance of the power and sovereignty of Iran and the resistance. In this regard, and according to the prudence of the Supreme Leader, His Eminence the Ayatollah and his son, and the approval of the National Security Council, and considering Iran and the resistance upper hand in the battlefield, the enemy's inability to carry out its threats despite all claims, and the formal acceptance of all the rightful demands of the Iranian people, it was decided that negotiations be held in Islamabad to finalize the details. This is so that within a maximum of 15 days, with finalization of the details, Iran's victory on the field shall also be consolidated in political negotiations. To this end, while rejecting all plans presented by the enemy, Iran drafted a 10-point plan and presented it to the American side via the country of Pakistan. It emphasized fundamental points such as controlled passage through the Strait of Hormuz in coordination with Iran's armed forces, which grants Iran a unique economic and geopolitical position. The necessity of ending the war against all components of the axis of resistance, which signifies a historic defeat for the aggression of the child-killing Israeli regime, the withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from all bases and deployment points in the region, the establishment of a secure transit protocol in the Strait of Hormuz such that it guarantees Iranian dominance according to the agreed protocol, the full payments of Iran's damages according to estimates, the removal of all primary and secondary sanctions and resolutions of the Board of Governors and the Security Council, the release of all blocked Iranian properties and assets abroad, and finally, the approval of all these items in a binding Security Council resolution. It is worth noting that the approval of this resolution will turn all these agreements into binding international law and will create an important diplomatic victory for the nation. Now, the Honorable Prime Minister of Pakistan has informed Iran that the American side, despite all outward threats, has accepted these principles as the basis for negotiations and has surrendered to the will of the Iranian nation. Accordingly, at the highest level, it has been decided that Iran will engage in negotiations in Islamabad with the American side for a period of 2 weeks, based solely on these principles. It is emphasized, again, just to reiterate, they're negotiating on Iran's demands to end this. Okay? It's not like Iran is bending the knee. This is propaganda. So you heard what Pete Hegseth said. I read you the statement from the president. The president focuses on this 10-point plan. They are negotiating as to what Iran wants. So we can talk about this ceasefire, but we are far from done with this. All right. Accordingly, it has been decided that Iran will engage in negotiations in Islamabad with the American side for a period of 2 weeks, based solely on these principles. It is emphasized that this does not mean the end of the war. Iran will only accept the termination of the war once the details, given the acceptance of Iran's preferred principles in the 10-point plan, are finalized in the negotiations. These negotiations will begin in Islamabad on Friday, April the 10th. With complete distrust of the American side, and Iran will allocate 2 weeks for these talks. This time frame is extendable by mutual agreement. It is essential that during this period, complete national unity be maintained and victory celebrations continue with strength. The current negotiations are national negotiations and a continuation of the battlefield. It is necessary for all people, elites, and political groups to trust and support this process, which is under the supervision of the leader of the revolution and the highest levels of the system, and to strictly avoid any divisive comments. If the enemy's surrender on the battlefield is transformed into a decisive political achievement in the negotiations, we will celebrate this massive historical victory together. Otherwise, we will fight side by side on the battlefield until all the demands of the Iranian nation are met. Our hands are on the trigger, and the moment that the slightest error is committed by the enemy, it will be responsible to with full power. So, here is the propaganda fight that we're in right now, right? So, objectively speaking, when the president shares the statement, an abbreviated statement by Tehran, and then accuses CNN of talking about this, making claims that it's some Nigerian deep state fake whatever publishing firm, and yet the Iranian government almost confirms that the statement that the president made is that we are negotiating based on the terms that Iran wants. So this is the summary of the terms. Short term, this is what Iran wants. Let me see. They want a full lifting of all U.S. sanctions. All U.S. economic sanctions to be removed, and that includes access to frozen Iranian assets abroad. Keep in mind, part of the JCPOA, when these sanctions went into place, right, was that some of their assets, their money, which was held in, I think it was Qatari and South Korean banks, was given back to Iran, was their money. So the accusation from the right is that Barack Obama gave them $1.7 billion in taxpayer money. That's not true. It was Iranian money that was negotiated as part of the JCPOA. So that's one thing that they want. They want an end to U.S. and allied military attacks, immediate halt to U.S. attacks on Iran, and also demands protection from attacks by regional allies like Israel. Iran frames this as a security guarantee. This is from Politico and The Guardian. Number 3, control and authority over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran wants oversight and control of the strait, ability to manage security, and possibly charge transit fees. Keep in mind, what the president has been demanding is that the strait be open. The strait was open. I mean, it was open. So try to find something that we've gained here, because I haven't found one. I'll continue. Again, control and authority over the strait, oversight control of the strait, and then ability to manage security and possibly charge transit fees. This is a major geopolitical leverage point. 20% of global oil flows through there. U.S. military withdrawal from the region. Iran calls for U.S. forces to leave the Middle East. They've been asking for that for a long time. Iran is also saying we will keep our nuclear program with limits. Unclear. Iran insists on continuing uranium enrichment, at least at some level. This is a big sticking point for the U.S. and for other countries in the world, primarily Israel. Binding international agreement. Iran wants a UN Security Council resolution to make the deal legally binding and harder to reverse. They want economic compensation mechanisms, including access to more of their funds that have been frozen and potential shipping tolls or restriction or reconstruction fees. And they want recognition of its regional role. Continue of influence via regional allies and proxies not fully addressed in their plan. So here's the side-by-side, all right? Sanctions. Iran wants full lifting of all U.S. sanctions, access to frozen assets. The U.S. says we want to keep sanctions until major concessions, especially nuclear limits. Military activity. Iran wants immediate halt to the U.S. and allied strikes. The U.S. is asking for Iran stop attacking and then restrains proxies. For the Strait of Hormuz, Iran saying we want to control and have oversight with fees. United States, no, we want it free and then unrestricted global shipping, which it was prior. Okay, let's just keep that in mind. Nuclear program, Iran wants to continue their enrichment at some level. The United States says no way. U.S. military presence, Iran wants U.S. withdrawals from the region. The United States wants to maintain bases, and then deterrence is in regards to or as they're stating it, a deterrence posture. Say that 3 times fast. And then legal framework. They want it binding. Iran wants it binding as in a UN resolution. The United States wants it flexible. They want to avoid being locked in case they want to change the terms going forward. Again, the Trump administration specifically. A legal framework. Again, they want it binding. Regional influence. Iran wants to maintain role via their allies. Hezbollah, for example. The U.S. wants a reduce Iran-backed proxy activity, and then economic terms, compensation, economic normalization from Iran, and then the U.S. wants in return phased relief tied to compensation. So nuclear program, sanctions relief, the Strait of Hormuz, and the U.S. military presence, I think those are the 4 biggest sticking points. Keep in mind, right, the Strait was open, okay? Iran never controlled the Strait. It was open for trade. It benefited the region. The reason, right, 21-inch guns. You're so cute. 21-inch guns, you won't request up, will you? Maybe you will, I don't know. Anyway, the Strait was open, okay? So what has our president done? Cost the lives of 13 service members that we know of, could be more, hundreds injured, the death of 160 or more children, primarily girls, at a school based on bad intelligence, disrupting global supply chains, alienating our allies. For what? For what? For now it to cost us money to ship things through the Strait of Hormuz? For what? Explain to me, first of all, why we were there in the first place. No one's been able to answer that question. Second, Iran holds the cards. They're negotiating from a point of leverage. Now, there are a few things people keep in mind that this is not over, okay? This is far from over. Sure, there's a ceasefire. Temporarily. 2 weeks. Who knows how long it's going to last? No one seems to know. But don't you think it's interesting that we've arrived here and you can clearly see the counter propaganda, right? Our president saying they have bent the knee, meanwhile, referencing the 10-point plan, and that is the starting point for negotiations. Typically speaking, if you are the invading army, right, and you want to resolve a conflict, you present the country that's being invaded with terms of surrender. Hasn't happened that way because we are literally negotiating off of Iran's deal. Again, I think the things that we should keep in mind, the nuclear program, sanctions relief, Strait of Hormuz, what's going to happen there, and then U.S. military presence. I can't imagine this administration giving in on those. So sure, there's a 2-week respite. I think the president is hopeful that the market rebounded, which it did. We saw Brent crude drop overnight. So this is a money grab. This is market manipulation. No doubt about it. Fucking white collar crimes that just continue to perpetuate and invade our system. Here we sit. Here we sit. The morning after. Tacoed again. I don't know how else you can describe it. So literally, now what? So we keep the world on edge for 2 weeks? While the power brokers, the patriarchy, what do we do? What do we do with that? What do we do with that? Like I don't know how it gets resolved, but we don't have a lot of leverage. we don't have a lot of leverage in this situation now, do we? And I don't think it shouldn't surprise anyone. We didn't create this mess. We're just here, we're the ones that are I don't want to say victims because it understates people who actually lost their lives through human suffering, but we're all being played. And the rest of the world is like, fuck this shit. And then what's happened domestically? You've got dozens of elected officials now demanding for the 25th Amendment. Congress can't do anything about that. That's got to come from the White House. J.D. Vance in particular, members of cabinet. You've got Democratic officials are introducing articles of impeachment. We're going to talk about that in a minute. You know how I feel about impeachment? Quite frankly, we are like hostages. That's true. We're economic hostages in this whole thing. I'm not the impeachment thing because I don't think you're going to get enough support from senators. Why would you go through the exercise? Sure, you can turn it into something. Will it galvanize his base even more? I don't know. I don't think so. He would be the first president to be impeached a third time, right? First time was Ukraine, second time was J6, and now it's war crimes. So I don't know where this is going to go, but I do find it a bit fascinating that we've now landed in this spot where the president of the United States and his minions, Pete Kegsbreath, are trying desperately to spin this, yet referring to the 10-point plan that Iran offered through Pakistan. It's wild, right? No, Bill Clinton was impeached for lying to Congress. That's why he was impeached. He was impeached for far less, but yeah. Let me just, I think there's another statement here. Okay. This is, again, he's now angry at the press again. Shocker.
The alleged statement put out by CNN World News is a fraud, as CNN well knows. The false statement was linked to a fake news site from Nigeria and, of course, immediately picked up by CNN and blared out as legitimate headline. The official statement by Iran was just released and posted on Truth Below,
which I read to you, and the statement from the National Security Council within Iran. I read that entire statement from you, but they want to claim that it's fake. Okay, sure. I would too when it debunks everything you said.
The official statement by Iran was just released and posted on Truth Below. Authorities are looking to determine whether or not a crime was committed on the issuance of the fake CNN World statement, or was it a sick rogue player? CNN is being ordered to immediately withdraw this statement with full apologies for their, as usual, terrible reporting. Results of the investigation will be announced in the near future. President Donald J. Trump.
First of all, fascism. CNN is being ordered to immediately withdraw this statement? What? CNN is being ordered? That's an interesting twist. And then the final statement from the president on that matter.
No one can believe that fake news CNN put out a knowingly false and dangerous statement pretending it came from the upper levels of the Iranian government. It didn't. It was totally made up and posted as a headline for purpose of perhaps inflaming a very delicate situation. It was a new troublemaking site from Nigeria, and CNN just got caught cheating, a very dangerous thing to do.
No truth in any of that. And here's the last statement that I'll read from you from True Social.
A big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Likewise, so has everyone else. The U.S. will be helping with the traffic buildup in the Strait. There'll be lots of positive action. Big money will be made.
Keep that statement in mind as we watch gas prices hit $4.19, as people are losing their job, as people are losing their health care, as the Defense Department is asking for another $500 billion at the expense of the social safety net and middle-class Americans. But big money will be made. But the Dow.
Iran can start the reconstruction process. We'll be loading up with supplies of all kinds and just hanging around in order to make sure that everything goes well. I feel confident that it will, just like we are experiencing in the U.S. This could be the golden age of the Middle East. President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah. Oh, here's one from an hour ago. Let's just go through these.
The United States will work closely with Iran, which we have determined has gone through what will be a very productive regime change. There'll be no enrichment of uranium, and the United States will, working with Iran, dig up and remove all the deeply buried B-2 bomber nuclear dust. It is now and has been under very exacting satellite surveillance. Space Force. Nothing has been touched from the date of the attack. We are and will be talking tariff and sanctions relief with Iran. Many of the 15 points have already been agreed to. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. That's a spin. A country supplying military weapons to Iran will be immediately tariffed on any and all goods sold to the United States of America, effective immediately. There'll be no exclusion or exemptions. President DJT.
That is spin, friends. That is spin in real time, in real time. Yeah. So he's got to go back and kind of correct some of the things that he had said earlier. Namely that digging up nuclear dust, he's now referring to the 15-point plan when we are negotiating off of the 10-point plan submitted by Iran. Now, he's going to say Iran has agreed. Iran's like, we haven't agreed to shit. You stop fucking bombing us or we're going to fuck shit up. They have the leverage. They have all the leverage. They have it all. We have none. We have none. There were human chains that were going around over bridges. There were human chains around electrical plants. They want to come, the argument that they're making is if you want to come for us, you're going to have to do this in front of the world. And we've got a propaganda machine that is prepared to push back. We've got proxies. We've got Russia supplying weapons. Interestingly enough, there's no comments about Russia. We know Russia supplied Iran with intelligence. We know Russia supplied Iran with drones. We know Russia has been doing lots of things and vice versa. Sanction relief, buying Iranian oil, the United States government bent a knee there. So where the fuck have we won? Somebody explain that to me. Somebody explain it. I would love for MAGA to come up here and try to have that debate. Tell me what it is that we've accomplished. What did we accomplish? What did we accomplish? The United States government is negotiating off a deal that Iran has submitted that includes allowing them to continue to enrich uranium. The president admitted it himself. We are negotiating with that off of that deal. Now, is it going to pass? Who the fuck knows? But that's where we sit. You've got incompetent fucking people. You've got the most criminal. It's a crime family. I was thinking about this yesterday, right? You've got the president runs his family as if it's a crime family, right? He is the mob boss. His capos are his kids. His conciliaries are people like Rudy Giuliani and Roger Stone and Steve Bannon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he runs the government. He runs his businesses that way. You do what I say. The law says otherwise. I don't care. Here's what the rules are. I don't care. The tough guy bravado. He tacoed. And lives were lost. For what? For what? For what? Honestly, I'm asking. Like, for what? What did we gain? We gained nothing. In fact, it's worse. It's worse. We have gained literally nothing. If we are negotiating off of them having access, again, the claim the president made, we are negotiating off of their 10-point plan. And you notice he had to come back over the top and say, oh, a 15-point plan, which they already agreed to. Iran's like, we haven't agreed to shit. So who do you want to believe? Seriously. Who do you want to believe? At this point, they're all part of the propaganda machine, but the propaganda war is being clearly won by the Iranian government, and there's no doubt about that. I don't think it's debatable. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. How about yourself?
I wouldn't say fantastic, but I'm here. But I'm glad I'm glad you're feeling so inspired.
I'm not feeling inspired. Trust me. Pattern matching brain is looking at this conflict and going, "This is a pause for 2 days," because we just got a report of another ceasefire violation about 10 minutes ago.
Okay. From us, likely, or from us, or from the I country, or from
the I country. East-west pipeline in Saudi Arabia just took a direct hit from a drone.
Okay.
It's gonna be this is gonna be a shit show, and especially with what the blue and white country said earlier, a little bit earlier today, this morning, which is that the fact that they're like, "Oh, we'll agree to the ceasefire," but unfortunately, we're gonna keep going after Lebanon. This is not gonna hold. It won't hold.
It's not. It's not. So the argument then is like, what have we gained? I'm trying to be objective here. Like, what have we gained? I mean, there is no. I don't see the win. I see nothing but losses. Losses to our economy, loss to life, loss to allies, loss to strategic relationships, loss to credibility. What have we lost? I mean, what have we gained? We've gained nothing.
Exactly, and that's what a lot of the OSINT community that I'm a part of is saying, is that this looks like 2 days to allow more things to arrive into the region, more U.S. troops, more U.S. aircraft, because even this morning, the air bridge is still active, pulling stuff from Europe and dropping it off in the Middle East.
Yeah, there's that too.
It's going to be, we've gained nothing, and especially because from what has been widely reported still, and I tend to believe them, which is, oh yeah, so they've agreed to the Iran's peace plan, which is the 10 points of, we'll get to control the strait. We can enrich uranium. We don't have to do our ballistic missile program. I have no idea why and what the fuck happened here.
Well, I think we can all surmise as to what happened is that, and I've got a story from the New York Times I'm going to read about how this was sold. Literally, this plan was sold to the president with a PowerPoint presentation. I shit you not. I'll get into that story in just a little bit. But thanks for being here today, friend. I appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot. We've got, obviously, we're going to talk about the elections last night. Actually, let's pivot there for a second. So, as expected, the Republican candidate in Georgia, Clay Fuller, who was endorsed by the president, won that seat last night in the special election. Here's the thing. We've been talking about these margin shifts. It was a massive margin shift by like close to 13 points. That's that magic number again, friends, right? 13 points. A district that was won comfortably by Marjorie Taylor Greene in every election that she had, a district that was won comfortably by Donald Trump. So the result was 56 to 44%. So she has won that district by as much as 25 points. So again, it's that 13-point swing. That is absolutely terrifying to Republicans. A deep red district in Georgia, an important state in the swing state battle. Based on the maths, based on the number of registered voters in that particular district, to get that kind of margin, to reduce that kind of margin, I should say, that means Republicans voted for the Democrat, quite frankly. That's what it comes down to. Also, really good news in Supreme Court. The Wisconsin voters put another liberal justice on the Supreme Court. It's now 5-2. So all this is happening in the world. Meanwhile, at home, people are still showing up. People are still doing something. They are terrified of what the potential results of the midterm elections are, right? And which is why we have to keep our heads and eyes peeled, right? Because they're going to try to do everything they can to maintain power. So the storyline is Clay Fuller won with 57% of the vote. 43% of the vote is what Mr. Harris received. So the margin went down to 14 points. Marjorie Taylor Greene won her district in 2024 in her race with 66% of the vote. Sean Harris picked up 34. That's a 30 points margin at that election. So it's now cut in half, right? It's actually more than 13 points. It's 15 points. 2022, Marjorie Taylor Greene won with 66% of the vote. That margin was 32 points. In 2024, Donald Trump won that district with 68% of the vote over Kamala Harris, a 37-point margin. We're talking massive swings. It was never going to be an expectation the Democrat was going to win that district, similarly with Afton Bain's race in Tennessee. But we're talking 15 to 20-point swings. I've never seen anything like that in my life politically. When you're talking over time, sure, maybe you pick away at it, but the margins were getting bigger. And then all of a sudden, here we are. Sean Harris, the kind of person that people would elect, retired brigadier general. The kind of figure that MAGA would normally vote for, with the exception of his skin color, but that's a different conversation. But imagine now what the Republicans have to do, right? Imagine now. They've got to spend all this money defending districts that would normally save. Anything that's within that 15-point margin, they're going to have to spend money on. They have no choice. They literally have no choice. And we know that a lot of Republican national committees and state committees are hemorrhaging funding. They're going to have to tap into coffers from their billionaire class to try to win elections. That's really big news. So, a lot to cover today. I want to thank everybody for joining here. Keep tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring, friends. I appreciate you all. I want to go back to this briefly because it is What the Fuck Wednesday. And there's a lot to talk about. But to summarize the situation with this treaty, this ceasefire, I don't know what the United States gained. Listen, war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Here we sit once again. Don't forget the Department of Defense asking for $500 billion more, right? So I've got a list of some of the items that would potentially be impacted here. Let me just go through this real quick. This is ballpark shit. This is ballpark. Then I've got a whole bunch of sound that I'm going to play for you guys this morning from the Christian Nationalist Right. Some interesting statements from our new Homeland Security Secretary, Mark Wayne Mullen. There's an election happening in Hungary. We're going to talk about that because J.D. Vance is over there simping for Viktor Orban. That's fucking wild to me. Let me just read this for you. And then we're going to talk about some articles of impeachment that have been introduced. There's a whole bunch of shit happening. We may not even get it all in today. We're going to do our best because, as you know, we try to inform you as much as we can. But let me just kind of go through this list for you real quick because you'll be like, what? Where is it? I wasn't planning on going through this, but I think I will now because it's all right. These are some of the items that potentially could be affected so they can fund that $500 billion. And again, part of the supplemental that they're asking for, a supplemental would be outside of budget. When you're asking for more money, when you're outside the budget season, you need to get a supplemental. House needs to pass it because in our system of government, the House holds the purse strings. So to get the $1.5 billion, Republicans have been talking internally about having to make cuts to healthcare and other social service programs. So everybody on the right that tells you, oh, they're not going after healthcare. Oh, of course they are. $510 million grants for farmers and agricultural research, one of the proposed cuts. $82 million in loans for rural small businesses. $61 million for farms and food market. $240 million for school meals and food education for children abroad. $659 million for community building grants. $47 million to support minority-owned businesses. $449 million economic development grants for communities. $1.6 billion from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. $993 million for scientific research and technology standards. $150 million to support for American exports and trade. $2.2 billion for broadband and internet access programs. $8.5 billion funding for public schools. $1.5 billion vocational training and adult education. $2.7 billion college access and higher education support through DOE, Pell Grants, etc. $15.2 billion for roads, bridges, and infrastructure projects. $1.1 billion home energy efficiency and clean energy programs. $1.1 billion scientific research funding. pediatric cancer, anyone? $386 million environmental cleanup programs, $150 million for cutting-edge clean energy research, and $4 billion to help paying for home heating and cooling bills for low-income families, and then refugee settlement assistance totaling $768 million. Those are some of the items that have been discussed within Republican circles as to what items could be potentially at risk to justify a $500 billion. They're trying to make it, budget neutral, so to speak. All that winning. And our friends on the right, what they don't understand is that a lot of these things impact them more than they do, blue states, blue cities. Economic development grants for rural communities. Broadband access. Who does that impact? School lunch programs. Don't forget, school lunches in red states that are not funded now, the only way they could fund them in general is through contributions from blue states. So more kids in more red states are going to go without food. But we're fine as long as we're pumping up the war machine and getting our asses kicked. Not militarily, somewhat, but economically, strategically, from an ally relationship perspective, and to what end? Because the president wants us out of NATO? It's fucking wild, man. What the fuck did we win? Not a goddamn thing. Losing, losing, losing. Good morning, friend. How are you?
Good morning. I'm okay. I'm a little confused about everything that's going on, but I'm okay.
Same.
I have 2 things I want to say, and then I have a question for you. I just want some education. I need some education. I want to be informed. The first is, I was talking to my daughter, and we were talking about what was said, the tweet that came out on Sunday, that was just, I don't know. And we were like, if we were sitting around the Easter dinner table and, Uncle whoever said something like Trump said, the family would take him in for an evaluation for psychiatric care. So we don't, I don't know how he's, like you've said yesterday, he's a madman. I mean,
He's
literally
bloodthirsty. He's a bloodthirsty man. He's a bloodthirsty madman. Yep.
He's a madman. The second thing I wanted to say, which is just on a personal note, it's pretty tragic. My parents are in poor health. Specifically, my dad. He is in critical condition, and
sorry.
Thank you. So my partner and I are having to travel and drive 1,000 miles away to try to get home so I can see him before the end. So we leave tomorrow. So thoughts, please, everybody.
You got it.
Whatever you do, I don't care what you do with people, but whatever you do, I appreciate it. And the third thing is the question. And I just want to be educated, Steve. I know you're so smart. The chat's so smart. I need help. I don't understand, and I just don't understand why we attacked because they had nuclear weapons or they were a nuclear program going on. Why is it okay for us to do that to them, but we have and other countries have nuclear weapons?
That's always the question, because again, that gets into what I'm going to talk about in a little bit about the lies that Bibi Netanyahu has been telling for decades, and he finally got a puppet in Donald Trump to take the bait.
Okay, because it didn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me. I was like, I need to ask somebody who knows more than I know, and I trust you guys more than anybody, more than legacy media. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we do too. I appreciate you, friend. Keep us posted, okay? I'm sorry to hear about what you're going through, but good luck. I'll reach out to you later, okay?
Okay, thank you, Steve. Love you guys.
You got it. Love you too. See you later. Have a good day. That's the argument, right? And there's this great reporting New York Times does, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But yeah, it's just it's quite a world, quite a day, that's for sure. Yoel, how are you today?
Good. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry, but my English is not very good, but I will try to put a point here. The only thing that I think, in my point of view, that we have won in this war is being the hatred of most of the world. That's the reality. I am Cuban, and my question is, the president of the United States, Cuba's going to be the next. I don't know why do we have the United States have to go to Cuba for, regime change? Why don't we take away the embargo to Cuba and help them to rebuild the country? Why don't we do that? We had a war with Vietnam. We have a regular commerce and with China and Vietnam. Why can't we do the same with Cuba? That's my question, and I leave it there because I know there's a lot of people that want to talk about it.
Turn right onto Northwest 13th Terrace, then turn left onto Northwest 88th Avenue.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate that. Well, it is the ultimate hypocrisy. Don't forget, the IAEA has been attempting to investigate the I country's nuclear program for a very long time, and they've not been allowed to do so. So, like we talked about in this space, when I tend to go on panels, I was with Sinjay's panel for a little while longer, and just people who've been conditioned to think that the American superiority and imperialism is enough. Like we should be the ones that set the rules for everyone. It's fine for us, but not for you. The only country in the world to ever drop nukes. Right. The only one would be us. On that point, I did a little bit of research for you, by the way. Since 1945, okay, the United States has bombed Japan, North Korea, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Lebanon, Grenada, Libya, Iraq, Kuwait, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, formerly Yugoslavia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Syria, and Iran. Again, Japan, North Korea, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Lebanon, Grenada, Libya, Iraq, Kuwait, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, formerly Yugoslavia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Syria, and Iran. So we get accused, people on the left get accused of saying you hate America. No. I can't speak for everybody. It's not about hatred to me. It's about the fact that we create these problems. To what end? Because at the end of the day, the only people who benefit in this is the same people that are taking advantage of us today. And that is the war machine. That's the military-industrial complex. That's these massive multi-global corporations. And all we do is continue to support that, which is part of the discussion that I had yesterday with my senator in that roundtable discussion. So when I get invited to a policy summit, I am going to be calling that shit out. I don't want one very hotly contested point yesterday was regarding healthcare, and I went back and forth on this conversation because it's literally a health insurance crisis. The healthcare crisis is because we have a health insurance crisis. There was a woman who spoke up yesterday who she was trying to explain to her patient in the ER about the complications of this particular program without insurance, and the nurse got blamed for this patient not having insurance. And I worry about that, right? We're funding the war machine to an additional $500 billion, and we can't provide health insurance for the populace. And the wrong people are getting blamed for it, right? It's the health insurance industry, which then impacts the health care industry. There's a delineation there. So we talk about, and I know words, they may not matter as much to you guys, but they really matter to me because it's a message, right? I know exactly why are we blaming nurses. We shouldn't be blaming nurses. That's the point. The impact then on the health care system because of the health insurance industry, big pharma, medical devices, et cetera, et cetera. We think about that $500 billion. We think about half of that and the impact that would make on people. So I was pointed yesterday. I said, we go after the ACA subsidies. And Peter Welch is like, they're going after the ACA subsidies. And I put my hand up again. I said, why are we talking about ACA subsidies? Why are we not talking about Medicare for all? Why are we not talking about, why are we not using the bully pulpit? You're one of 100 senators. Why are you not, do you support that? I do. Then why aren't you talking about it? It's nowhere on your policy platform. I wasn't shy. Let's put it that way. Maybe that's why I got asked to be on the policy summit, so they can hear more perspectives. But I'm going to go. I'm taking them up on that. I don't know exactly what it is, but I've already received an email confirmation because I requested to say, listen, are we going to be doing this? And they said yes. We'll let you know. So that was the question that I asked. Why are we not talking about it? Why is Bernie and AOC the only ones that are really talking about it? Why are we not having people using their voice? Now, I understand in the maths, right, that the Democrats are in the minority in the center. I don't fucking care. I don't care if it was 99-1. Be that one person that says we should have Medicare for all. We should have a universal healthcare system. I don't want extensions to the ACA. If that's what we can get, sure. I'd love to have that back because it's killing me monthly insurance numbers, right? But here we sit. It's not just because of corporate Dems. It's just because of the machine. But I hear you, Joe Best. Your frustration is real. Exactly, Ash. We are used to settling. That's the point. No more fucking settling. And thank you for your advice on the health insurance debate, by the way. I appreciate that. Because it's the health insurance system that is fucked, affecting care. If nurses are now getting blamed for shit because of the health insurance industry, that's a problem. That's a real problem. And I'm worried about that. Hospitals are closing. Physicians are losing their jobs. Community health centers are closing. And here we sit, right? Again, this is a fundamental principle of the Do Something Tour. Reminding people like, why can't we have healthcare? Exactly. In starving Cuba. Why can't we have healthcare? Why can't we have the best education system in the world? And I'm going to press people to answer. So it was a good day. Again, it's not lost on me to have the privilege to sit in a room like, this small, with my senator sitting one seat down. It's not lost on me that happened. It's a privilege living in this state. I've had direct interactions, with all of my representatives. I've worked on Bernie's campaigns. I've not been shy. I know that's not easy for everyone, but they are your elected officials. And like I said, to give Peter Welch credit, he's a good man. He's done a lot for our state, education reform. He's done a lot to support our indigenous population here. He's done a lot to support EMS and EMT services and paramedic services. He's done a lot. He really has. He's a good man. He's a moderate though, and you could even hear it oozing out of him yesterday. I'm looking to always try to find those bipartisan solutions. I'm like, sure, that's great. But if you can't get them, why not tell people what you stand for? I think the truth in this election season, and this is a stark truth, and Democrats need to hear this, moderate Democrats need to hear this. You're not winning people over because of your messaging. People are choosing to vote for you because Trump is so fucking bad. Again, Trump did not make America like this. Because America is like this is the reason that we got Trump. So corporate Democrats have got to understand that there's a progressive movement in our country. And I talked about that yesterday. And I even asked, I said, everybody in this room, do you all believe that we should have the best education system in the world? When I tell you guys I took over the meeting, I did. Do you want the best education system in the world? Do you want the best healthcare system in the world? Do you want an economic system that works and benefits the middle class? Do you want money out of politics? Do you want to ban lobbying? Do you want to overturn Citizens United? Everybody raised their hand. I said, Peter, these are your constituents. Why are you not talking about that publicly? He didn't have much to say. So there's your opportunity, right? Get out there, do shit, call out your elected officials, and hopefully you'll have good ones who are willing at least to listen. And he listened so much that I got invited to a policy summit. So I'll take that as a win. All right. Everybody keep tapping, please. 1,800 people in here. If we had $1 a day, we could totally take out that, hit our 10K today. That'd be awesome. Little Bitty, how are you today? Little Bitty one, are you there?
Are you? Yeah, hold on.
I'm fine.
Yeah,
Hello?
now I can hear. No, hello, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. The only thing I gotta say is that you gotta look at if you look at everything through a racial point of view, name a black or brown country that has nuclear weapons. Name one.
I'm sorry you cut out. I couldn't hear
Name
you.
the only reason why we're doing this is because
I'm sorry, friend. You got a really
the only
bad.
reason
If you want to
why
request
we're
again,
doing it.
you keep cutting out. But India and Pakistan, if you wanted to go black and brown, India and Pakistan have nukes. So just wanted to let you know that in case I wasn't sure if you knew that. But that again, there's the there's the irony. So here's where we sit. That list again: Japan, North Korea, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Lebanon, Grenada, Libya, Iraq, Kuwait, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, formerly Yugoslavia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Syria, and Iran. Those are all the countries that the United States has bombed. And yet, who's the threat to the world? Proxies? Proxies? I don't know. Okay, so let's get back to some of the other things that we were discussing here. Anyway, that if you have an opportunity to speak to your senators, please do so. They're there to listen. They're there to work for you and challenge them. Challenge. Oh, another little highlight from yesterday. I am a registered member of the Progressive Party in Vermont. The Progressive Party in Vermont is a dominant voice in our state legislature. Again, very fortunate. That's where my progressive roots come from, right? So not only just ideologically, but my political biases on the progressive spectrum, progressive left-leaning libertarian. That's where I sit. I'm a bit nihilistic at times, but I'm also pragmatic because I understand that the harm will fall to the marginalized communities more so than ever if the entire system crumbles. Anyway, there was 25 people there or so yesterday. That's probably the count. And there was a bit of a division between the progressives who really want to push things forward and the moderates who just want to survive. And I get that, harm reduction. But it was interesting when we started talking about these things in terms of why can't we have the best education system in the world? Why can't we have the best healthcare system in the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And you can see the moderates being like, yeah, why can't we have that shit? Why can't we? And I learned from that conversation yesterday, as I'm wont to do, how to message this when I get out on the road talking to people on the Do Something tour, right? When I get out there and start to ask the question, instead of do you think we should have, flip it around and say, why don't we have the best education system in the world? Why don't we have the best healthcare system in the world? For the people that are still out there saying we can't afford healthcare, you can miss me with your bullshit. If we can afford to fund the military industrial complex to the tune of $500 billion for next year, it's like a 42% increase, then we can certainly afford to feed kids. We can certainly afford to educate kids and families. We can certainly afford to provide, student loan relief to people who want to go to college, et cetera. The reason is the patriarchy. Brian Cox, Brian Cox, British actor from Severance. I found this great quote from him. He played Logan Roy, great actor, love him. This is from Brian Cox. In America, they don't like women. They won't let a woman be president, not in the foreseeable future. Look what happened to Hillary. Look what happened to Kamala. The patriarchy is so invasive and so insidious, it's hard to throw it off. I think the patriarchy is a fucking mess. And it's the patriarchy that got us into this position that we're in at the moment, and we don't learn the lessons. I say, give it over to the women. Succession. Did I say Severance? Succession. This entire fucking mess is because of the fucking patriarchy. I mean, it's who are the people making these decisions? Who are the warmongers? Who are the ones that are driving us? Who are the ones that are rattling? Who are the ones that are measuring their dicks? It's not the fucking queens. You could look at every country in the world that are run by women. There's no way they would put us in war. No way. There's no way. They think about the things that they prioritize. So again, when we talk about this trickle up economic system that I would love to see, that we focus and we center every decision that we make around women and children. Yeah, exactly. Who are the emotional ones? Exactly. Who are the emotional ones, right? Remember this? What was the headline that I had up yesterday or the day before? Where is it? Donald Trump show how Trump's alignment with Bibi and a lack of sustained opposition from all but one member of the president's inner circle put the United States on a course to war. Here are the 6 takeaways. Netanyahu made a detailed pitch for war to Trump and his team in the sit room. Why is the Israeli prime minister in the situation room? Why? Sitting across from Mr. Trump in the situation room, a venue rarely used for in-person sessions with foreign leaders, Bibi made an hour-long PowerPoint presentation to the president and his top aides on the 11th of February. He argued that Iran was ripe for regime change and that a joint U.S.-Israeli campaign could bring down the Islamic Republic. At one point, he played a video that included a montage of figures who could lead Iran if the theocratic government fell. Among them was Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's last Shah. The Israeli leader and his advisors laid out what they portrayed as a near-certain victory, Iran's missile program destroyed in weeks, the Strait of Hormuz kept open, and minimal retaliation against American interests. Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, could help foment an uprising inside Iran to finish the job. Okay. Mr. Trump's response was swift and appeared approving to most in the room. Sounds good to me, said the president as he told that to the prime minister. U.S. intelligence officials called Netanyahu's regime change scenarios farcical. U.S. analysts scrambled overnight to assess what Mr. Netanyahu had presented. Their conclusions, delivered the next day in another Situation Room meeting, were blunt. The first 2 objectives laid out in the Israeli pitch, unaliving the Ayatollah and crippling Iran's inability to threaten its neighbors, were achievable. U.S. intelligence officials concluded the second 2 goals presented by Bibi and his team, a popular uprising inside Iran and replacement of the Islamic government by a new secular leader, were not. The CIA Director John Ratcliffe used a single word to describe the regime change scenarios: farcical. Marco Rubio, in other words, says it's bullshit. But of course, don't forget, in the press briefing the president made the other day, when a reporter from the New York Times asked questions about this statement that the president made on Easter Sunday, of course, the president went after the New York Times and not the statement. It's very telling. That's what authoritarians do. That's what fascists do, right? Oh, it gets better. Mr. Trump absorbed the assessment and moved past it. His own intelligence advisors, his CIA director, his Secretary of State, leaders on, hold on a second. Okay, I love you. Be safe, be kind, be gentle. Have a good day. Sorry. Daughter gets to go in late to school on Wednesdays. His own Secretary of State, his own CIA, his leaders in the intelligence community are like, sir, this is fucking bullshit. This is farcical. Whatever. Psh, I trust Bibi. Bibi and his PowerPoint. Mr. Trump absorbed the assessment, moved past it. Regime change, he said, would be their problem. His interest in unaliving Iran's top leaders and dismantling its military remained undimmed. J.D. Vance was the strongest opponent of the war initially, and the only one to make a forceful case against it. Of everyone in Mr. Trump's inner circle, Mr. Vance did the most to try to stop the march toward war. He had built his political career opposing precisely this kind of military adventurism, and he told colleagues that a regime change war with Iran would be a disaster. And J.D. Vance was absolutely right. He was absolutely fucking right. Nailed it. In front of the president and his other advisors, Mr. Vance warned that the conflict could cause regional chaos and untold casualties. Part of this is the claim that the president made about a leak. Okay, I'm going to see if I can find that sound for you right now, because he was complaining that they're going to go after the leaker, as he said, and this is what he's talking about. Is this the one? Give me a second here. And I've got some sound to play for you from Keg's Breath. That's just staggering to me. Hang on one second. Is the one? That's not it. That's not it. Okay, here you go. This is kind of a summary of that conversation that's the reporting by the New York Times. Here you go.
The weekend. First off, was everyone on board with the operation, or were there people that were trying to talk you out of going through with the operation this weekend?
Not everybody was on board.
Somebody else within.
No. So we know those people that were not on board were John Ratcliffe and Marco Rubio, the two people that you would want on board. You need your intelligence community, the CIA, and you need your State Department, your diplomatic arm, to be on board. And they're both like, this is a fucking stupid idea. But as long as Pete and his fucking warmongering white supremacy tendencies, his anti-Islamic tendencies, where he wants Muslims all, don't forget that famous quote, unalive all Muslims. Yeah, that came from Pete Hegseth. As long as he's on board, that's fine.
No, there was military people, very professional, that preferred not doing it. These two were totally on board, which was very important. If they weren't, I would have had a little difficulty. But no, there were military people that said, you just don't do this. You don't go into the heart of a very powerful military. You know, this is, hey, you have countries and countries. You have some countries where military is not their strong suit. This whole thing is militarized like nobody's ever seen before. Half the people are wearing uniforms. And we had people within the military. Usually it's not done. That's one of the reasons. You know, I was surprised. Somebody said it's the only time it's ever been done. I said, that's not possible. But it is possible. Because you're going into hundreds of thousands of soldiers along the path. I mean, look at some of the helicopters, how they got hit. So, yeah, there were people within the...
Don't forget, the helicopters that got hit after they told us that their air defense system had been obliterated. Yeah. Anyway, nothing to see there. That's totally fine. Let's see if I do want to see if I have that one clip because it's interesting. He's talking about the leakers. That's all right. I don't need it. I'll go back to the story from the New York Times. I'll post this in the chat, and the mods can post it in our general chat. Please join our Discord. It's a way for you to get it. Okay. What's this? All right, back to it. In front of the president and other advisors, Mr. Vance warned the conflict could cause regional chaos and untold casualties, break apart the president's political coalition, and be seen as a betrayal by voters who had supported the promise of no new wars. He stressed the depletion of U.S. munitions and the risk of outsized and unpredictable retaliation given that the regime's survival was at stake. He also warned about the Strait of Hormuz and the likelihood of soaring gasoline prices. J.D. Vance was exactly right. That's the kind of advisor that you want, right? That is somebody, he's right. Tell me what didn't happen here. He said that the conflict could cause regional chaos and untold casualties. Check. Break apart the president's political coalition. Check. Be seen as a betrayal by voters who had supported the promise of no new wars. Checked. He stressed the depletion of U.S. munitions and the risk of outsized and unpredictable retaliation, given that the regime's survival was at stake. Check. And then also warned about the Strait of Hormuz and the likelihood of soaring gasoline prices. Check. Those are the kind of people you want in your ear. That's the kind of advice that you want. And because the president is a fucking man-child, and because he is a bloodthirsty, malignant fuck, twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster, convicted felon, name on a list, predator, racist, warmongering, bloodthirsty war criminal, he took the word of Bibi Netanyahu and his PowerPoint presentation instead of his own vice president, instead of his own closest advisors. Because you're right, Indonian doesn't listen to anybody. His preference, J.D. Vance's preference, I don't really want to know what his preferences are. We'll leave that right there. His preference was for no strikes at all. But knowing Mr. Trump was likely to act, Mr. Vance tried to steer him toward more limited options. When that failed, he argued for overwhelming force to end things quickly. At the final meeting on the 26th of February, his message to the president was blunt. You know I think this is a bad idea, but if you want to do it, I'll support you. Like, okay. Some Trump advisors had serious private concerns but deferred to the president. The positions in the inner circle fell along a spectrum, but with one thing in common. Nobody other than Mr. Vance mounted a forceful argument to change Mr. Trump's mind. This is why they're all fucking complicit. This is why. Yeah, we totally could couch it, right? Defense Secretary Kagsbrath was the most enthusiastic. We're going to have to take care of the Iranians eventually, so we might as well do it now, he told the group on the 26th of February, the day before Mr. Trump gave his final order. Mr. Rubio was more ambivalent. His preference was for continued maximum pressure rather than full-scale war, but he did not try to talk the president out of it. Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff, worried about the United States being dragged into a conflict in the Middle East on the eve of midterm elections, but did not see it as her role to share her concerns about a military decision in a large group setting with the president. Why the fuck not? Thank you, Obi. Why the fuck not? Why would she not say anything? You're the chief of staff. So it's this again. This is why journalism is so important. This is why you get this inside baseball. Sure, they're all yes men. Exactly, Lynn. That's exactly my point. They're all yes men. Even J.D. Vance, who went down that road. J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, they talked about warmongering. Tulsi Gabbard talked about warmongering. Pete Hegseth has talked about it. I've got this. I'll play this right now because this is telling. This is the whole fucking ball game right here, what he says in this clip. This goes back to when before he was a defense secretary, when he was out doing when he was an anti-neocon. He completely supported no more extenuation of American imperialism. He was done with the whole fucking ball game. I've got that. I got to play that clip like right now. And then we're going to play some more opportunities for Pete Hegseth to enrich himself because of the lies that he told. Here you go. He sat down with Sean Ryan a couple years ago at this point. Just listen to what he said.
I've been a recovering neocon for 6 years now. Like the foolishness with which we ricocheted around the world, intervening, think it was in our best interest when really we just overturned the table and created something worse in almost every single scenario, has led to the hubris of the Pentagon is that they want to now tell other countries how to do counterinsurgency based on what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Are you kidding me? So you really have learned nothing. Okay, nothing. So you're right. The trust there that our political leaders or our generals would have our best interests in mind is totally broken. It's totally broken.
My, how far we have fallen, Pete. How far we have fallen. So back to this story again. Again, that was Pete. Like, this is fucking bullshit. Why are we doing this? But now that you've got the keys to the car, my guy, now that you're out spending $96 million on fucking lobster tail, et cetera, putting in your green room, your makeup room, so that you can quaff and and blast your banaka before you go out in front of the press corps, you're fine now. Your Christian nationalist tendencies can are in full display. Okay. Secretary Hegseth was the most enthusiastic. We're going to have to take care of the Iranians eventually, so we might as well do it now, he told the group the day before Mr. Trump gave his final order. Mr. Rubio, more ambivalent. Susie Wiles, told you about that. General Dan Kane, Razor, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, had serious concerns about the war and persistently flagged risks. Weapons depletion, closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the difficulty of predicting Iran's response. But he was so careful not to take a stand, repeating that it was not his role to tell the president what to do. That he could appear to some to argue all sides simultaneously. Mr. Trump, in turn, would often seem to hear only what he wanted to hear. Keep in mind, a high-ranking army brass was just removed from the military because of his obvious issues with this regime change bullshit war. Trump believed it would be a quick war like in Venezuela. The president's confidence that a conflict with Iran would be brief and decisive was deeply rooted and largely impervious to contrary evidence. He'd been emboldened by Iran's immediate response to his bombing of its nuclear facility in June and by the spectacular commando raid that captured the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, from his compound on January the 3rd, in which no American lives were lost, another war crime. When advisors raised the possibility that Iran could shut down the strait, a choke point for vast quantities of global oil and gas, Mr. Trump dismissed the possibility, assuming the regime would capitulate before it came to that. When told the campaign would significantly deplete American weapons stockpiles, including missile interceptors already strained by years of support for Ukraine and Israel, Mr. Trump appeared to weigh the warning against a more appealing data point. The U.S. had an essentially unlimited supply of cheap, precision-guided bombs. When the anti-interventionist commentator Tucker Carlson privately asked Mr. Trump how he could be so sure everything would be okay, the president replied, "Because it always is." That guy is in charge. For Trump, it was a gut-driven decision enabled by an echo chamber that did not exist in his first term. Mr. Trump's decision to take the country to war was not driven by intelligence assessments or a strategic consensus among his advisors, which did not exist. It was driven by his instinct, the same instinct his team had watched produce improbable results again and again. Unlike his first-term team, many of whom regarded him as a danger to be managed or obstructed, Mr. Trump in his second term is surrounded by advisors who view him as a great man of history. After his improbable comeback in 2024, after indictments and assassination attempts, and after ordering the flawless operation of the capture of Mr. Maduro in Venezuela, the people around Mr. Trump had developed an almost superstitious faith in his destiny and his instincts and his power to will new realities into existence. In making these high-stake decisions and high-risk decisions, almost everyone deferred to the president's gut. I shit you not. This is sycophantic behavior. I trust his gut. I mean, they called it out. I mean, Vance called it out. Rubio called it out. Razor Kane called it out. This is going to be bad. But you know what? I trust his gut. Cool. Surrounded by people trying to execute on Mr. Trump's desires, and with so much having gone his way to that point, almost nothing stood between the instinct and the act. I read that story and I'm like, man, we talk about the sycophantic cult-like behavior from his followers every single day. We talk about that a lot. But when you see it like in full display, when you hear, again, according to the reporting, J.D. Vance being like, bro, this is a bad idea. Gas prices are going to go up. We're going to lose support from European partners. We're going to lose support from our allies. You're going to lose division. You're going to divide your base because of no new wars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he was exactly right. The title of that article from the New York Times, it's 6 takeaways from the story of Trump's decision to go to war with Iran. Like, what? I mean, when you hear it in real time and you go through the exercise, this is what happens. Jonathan Karl had a conversation with the president this morning. This was posted just a little while ago. This morning, I asked President Trump if he's okay with the Iranians charging a toll for all ships that go through the strait. He told me there may be a joint U.S.-Iran venture to charge tolls. Quote, "We're thinking of doing it as a joint venture. It's a way of securing it, also securing it from lots of other people. It's a beautiful thing." I take you back to the quote the president made on True Social this morning. Hang on a second. Of the layers and layers of chaos, this is the one that stood out to me.
Smart people don't like.
Oh, yeah.
Smart people don't like me.
That's true. We know that. Hang on.
A big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Likewise, so is everybody else. The U.S. will be helping with the traffic buildup in the strait. There'll be lots of positive action. Big money will be made.
Okay. We're thinking of doing it as a joint venture. It's a way of securing it, also securing it from lots of people. It's a beautiful thing. A joint venture to charge tolls. That is one of the demands the Iranian government put out there. Sure. Listen, the strait was open. You guys, you attacked us. You're the one that forced our hand. You guys are the one. And we're now, because of what you did, because of what you did, we're now going to charge a fee. And they're going to make millions of dollars off it. And now the president wants to be like, we're going to pay. So we're going to pay the fees, People are going to pay us the fees to do what? It's fucking madness. It's absolute madness. I don't know for anybody. I don't expect Trump supporters to try to push back on this, but I mean, come on. Come on. I played that soundbite from Anthony Scaramucci the other day. All these things that he's done, it doesn't matter but gas prices. And where do they sit now? What did I say? I just want to make sure I get the number right. I'm sorry, $4.16. $4.16. And it's just going to go up because if things are not, again, it's 2 weeks, there's still volatility. So this is market manipulation. We saw the price of Brent crude drop overnight. This is market manipulation. You know, people are gonna buy low. They're going to sell high. The rich is going to get richer, right? So $4.16 today, up 2 cents from yesterday. It was $4.06 a week ago. It was $3.45 a month ago. It was $3.24 a year ago. Gas has not been this high in 4 years. Okay, diesel prices are up over $2 a gallon. Why did gas prices go up under the Biden administration? You guys know there's the OPEC Plus deal that Donald Trump signed and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Neither one of those things Joe Biden did. Neither one of them. We can directly draw the straight fucking line from Donald Trump and the OPEC Plus deal, which, by the way, put American oil companies out of business. That deal expired and gas prices fucking spiked. Supply and demand. Russia invades Ukraine. Joe Biden didn't do it. That's why gas prices spiked. This is intentional. So I'd love to have somebody who supports Trump come up and explain that to me. Why it was Joe Biden's fault that gas prices went up during his administration, but it's not Trump's fault now. Because that's what people are saying. Diesel prices are $5.67 a gallon. I don't need to tell truckers that. It was $3.62 a gallon a year ago. It's up over $2 a gallon. $2 a gallon. How big are tanks on an 18-wheeler on a semi? Like 100 gallons? So it's an extra $200 to fill your tank? Independent operators? That's crazy. That's crazy. Everything's going up. My electric bill is through the fucking roof. LNG, this is going to be impactful over the summer air conditioning months. Europe's going to be feeling it. Like, what are we fucking talking about here? To what end? What did we get? What did we get out of this deal? We got nothing. The strait was open. I tell you right now, it's a bold statement. If the president came in and did nothing, didn't sign one executive order, didn't make one bullshit press conference, just played fucking golf every day and traveled the country and sold merch, we'd be good. We'd be good. The economy was doing great under Joe Biden. MAGA didn't like it, but it was. We'd be doing good. Couldn't do that, though. Here we sit. American loss of life, 2 times 150 gallons. There you go. There you go, Gregory. Our friend Legend, who does all of our backgrounds, Hearth and Chat for Legend, is a truck driver. 150-gallon tank, $2 a gallon. You don't have to tell him. So when we go through these crises, when we look at the volatility of the supply chain, the lessons that hopefully people learn coming off of COVID, we know the volatility, right? We saw how that impacted all of us. Here we are again. This is self-inflicted. But that's fine. Nothing to see here, right? It's totally good. We're totally good. Okay. Let me get rid of this. Don't need that anymore. We talked about the Georgia special election, which I think if we are paying attention politically, it's game over for MAGA. All right, I want to go through a couple little things here. In particular, the situation with Pete Hegseth. Then I've got some interesting sound that I want to play from Pamela Brown. Pamela Brown's been doing a lot of great reporting. She's fantastic. She spends a lot of time talking about Christian nationalism and the rise of Christian nationalism, in particular, the mainstream rise of Christian nationalism. First, I'm going to play some sound from this is Pastor Chuck Baldwin. Okay, this tells you a lot, and I'm not sure exactly his take here, but it relates to me because Pete Hegseth is on this anti-Islamic, unalive all Muslims, which is his justification for the war. And then we know he's a full-on Christian nationalist, and we know how, because to me, they're all related. So this is what he had to say about, well, here you go.
There at the beginning of the moral majority, back in the days of Jerry Falwell, I was on the inside of that movement. I saw it from the inside, and I can tell you that while I believe that many of the grassroots men that were involved in that had really good hearts, the bottom line that came out of that movement was a marriage between the Republican Party and evangelical Christianity, at least white evangelical Christianity. It was a literal marriage that took place. From that point onward until today, to be a good Christian, you have to be a Republican.
I'd like you to hear that, Christians. To be a good Christian, you have to be a Republican. Now, I try to think about that, again, objectively. How do we square that? Okay? So, Republican Christians, who we speak to a lot, do we blur the lines between Republican Christian and MAGA Christians? Because I don't see that at all. I don't see that at all.
And to be a good faith leader, you have to sell your soul to the Republican Party. I was there and I saw it, so I know what I'm talking about. But beyond that, with the advent of the Trump administrations, especially the second one, I believe what we have is a cult that has developed within white evangelicalism.
You think?
I really do believe that.
You
I think the biggest reason for it is the evangelical support for the state of Israel.
What is eschatology?
That's the study of end times, prophecy. Quite frankly, I believe that their perverted doctrine of eschatology has allowed Zionist Israel to control the theology, especially eschatology, in white evangelical churches.
Pastor Chuck Baldwin says he witnessed firsthand the rise of political influence inside evangelical Christianity during his time in the moral majority alongside Jerry Falwell. We could do an entire show on the rise of the moral majority. We talked about this coming out of the 70s, right after the passing of Roe. They actually wanted to talk about things in terms of a Christian nationalist nation. That wasn't going to go over well. So they needed to find a galvanizing point, and that happened to be women's rights to their body, the passing of Roe. And ever since then, we've seen this chipping away at rights under the guise of the moral majority. So this is what this guy's talking about. Baldwin claims the movement evolved into what he describes as a marriage between the Republican Party and white evangelicalism, arguing that over time, political loyalty became tied to religious identity. He also alleges that in recent years, particularly during the era of Donald Trump, parts of the movement have taken on what he calls cult-like characteristics, pointing to theology surrounding Israel and end-of-times prophecies as key influences. No notes. No notes. So then that leads me to this little sound from Pamela Brown. She's sitting down with Katie Couric. So let me play this one first, because I think this one is this is more specific to what we just discussed here, what I just played for you. Here you go.
Assassination attempts against him, those were really a turning point for Christian nationalists who really came to believe that God saved Trump. And Trump has said it himself, he believes that God saved him to save America, right? So you have people who really believe, and Paula Cain White, who's the pastor, evangelical pastor who leads the White House Faith Office, has said herself that if to go against Trump would be to go against God. And so there's a portion of the population that is now even more convinced that whatever Trump does is God's will. He could start World War III, and that would be God's will. And the assassination attempts and him surviving that really, I think, fueled that belief among more Christian nationalists.
It's hard to argue, right? When you get Paula White Cain, when you post Butler, PA, the fake assassination attempt because his ear was fine, the feminine hygiene, the sanitary napkin on his ear, etc. Makes perfect sense that people would think that. And then she doubles down a little bit more because then it infiltrates other systems in our government.
More than half of Republicans, according to this research institute, identify as Christian nationalists. Well, I want to be clear though on something. This is a trend that's been going on a long time. It's not new, right? And the label has evolved. Some people reject the label because it's been conflated with white nationalism and other things that they don't like. But I think what's new now is the influence of these Christian supremacists like Doug Wilson and the Trump.
Don't forget, Doug Wilson is the pastor who believes in that women should not have a place, and she spent a long time interviewing him. Doug Wilson is Pete Hegseth's spiritual advisor. Robert Morris is Donald Trump's spiritual advisor. Robert Morris just got out of jail after only serving 6 months for abusing a child. Okay?
Administration, and how you're seeing the sort of the rise, people in power like a Pete Hegseth and others in the administration who consider themselves Christian nationalists. They're in power and they're making decisions that have real implications. And one of the things that they want to do is get rid of the Department of Education.
They've already done it.
And guess what's happening right now? Exactly. I mean, that is very much a Christian nationalist goal. Get rid of the Department of Education, right? And that's happened. In Oklahoma, they have Bibles in classrooms. They want to put the 10 Commandments in classrooms in Louisiana. In Texas, they have the curriculum that was very controversial, as you'll recall, because it's biblically based curriculum. And parents who weren't Christian were like, well, wait a second, my child.
How about parents how about parents who are Christian?
Or parents who are Christian, right? But what education to them is key. It's foundational as part of their movement. In their view, if you shape the minds of young people, then you shape the country. And so while ultimately the goal is to get rid of public schools, right? That is the end goal. They view this effort as, infusing more Christianity and religion into the classroom as a way to shape the minds of young people.
University. I mean, my new favorite phrase is counter-programming, right? Because this is kind of what we're talking about. We've got Turning Point and CPAC. More Turning Point now because CPAC's failing. We have got Turning Point pushing this agenda that she's talking about here, right? We've got the MAGA movement by and large. We've got white evangelical Christians. We've got Christian nationalists all driving this same message. It involves the situation in Iran. Don't forget, Pete Hegseth publicly, on the record stating, unalive all Muslims, right? And talking about how they are a radical threat, blah, fucking blah. And then you've got the degradation and the elimination of the Department of Education. Why do they want to do that? They want to do that because they truly want a Christian nation. That's what they want. They've claimed that they've had one. They've claimed that we are one, and we see it. So where does the counter-programming come from? Where's the opposition? You're not going to see opposition in our legacy media. Are there groups that are organized that can confront and do battle toe-to-toe with Turning Point? There isn't. I know there are groups that have tried, and there's these slowly forming media entities, sort of the non-legacy media entities. There's no counter-programming. So I want to be that counter-programming. I think that's what movements like Do Something are about, because it's not an agenda-driven initiative. It is a human-driven initiative. It's about reminding people what we have and what we don't have, why we have it, and how we could get it. How can we argue that we don't need healthcare? How can we argue that we don't need a better education system? Humbly speaking, I'm good with messaging. I know how to talk to people. On Fuck America Tour, I don't agree. I don't think that that's the right counter messaging, because it's the same. It's just counter to the Turning Point rhetoric. It's not solving problems. It's not reminding people what's at stake. Due respect to their cause, I think what they're doing is good, because we do need more people talking. But there's got to be more to it. There's got to be more about it. There's got to be more people connected to what we're trying to solve for. Because, again, I've said this before, right? I have never lived, none of us have ever lived through a time where rights are being taken away from us. And the reason that rights are being taken away is because of this rise of Christian nationalism. Now, the right's going to argue to say, no, that the rights were just pushed back to the state. No. When you have Christian nationalists in legislatures and they are legislating away women's rights to their body, for example, or just a recognition of the LGBTQA community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, those are examples of rights being taken away under the doctrine of the moral majority. You can't be putting Bibles in classrooms. You can't be hanging the 10 Commandments on walls in classrooms. You can't be doing that shit. You can't have a faith office led by Paula White Cain, who members of her own community have called her a fucking heretic, going on the record saying Donald Trump is a servant of God, and the reason that we love him so much is because he survived these assassination attempts and he is still fighting. They literally see him as a messiah. You heard it just from the story that the reporting that I shared with you from the New York Times. They literally see him as a messiah. They can trust his instincts because he's been delivered to us. It is sickening. Yes, it's sickening. We joke about it, we laugh about it, but it's fucking real. It is real. So, white women and white men who are Christians, this is what's happened to your religious identity. It's been overhauled. It's been overhauled by Christian nationalists, and that is dangerous. Like really, really, really disturbing. So I've got a little bit of I want to read this to you because I think it speaks to what we're just talking about. But first, let's do this. Hang on a second.
These are MAGA's words of wisdom.
This is the good liars out doing the work.
Was fighting the release of the Epstein files over the summer.
I think he was protecting some of his friends.
Donald Trump was protecting his friends in the Epstein files?
Guys, yeah.
Is that a presidential thing to do, to protect rich and powerful people?
They all do it. They all do it.
But there was victims of sex crimes, young girls that were hurt.
I understand.
Should Donald Trump be protecting people who committed crimes, heinous crimes with young girls?
No.
Okay. But that is what you said he just did, right?
Yes. I don't have a problem with it.
You don't have a problem with him?
No, because I support him because of his policies for America.
What?
These are MAGA's words of wisdom.
I've got one more for you because people like this. So I've got one more I'll play for you under the same category, MAGA's words of wisdom. Here you go.
You're forcing your lifestyle over on me.
Who's forcing you to be gay?
Joe Biden and his crew.
Joe Biden's forcing you to be gay?
No, not forcing me. Make sure you get that right. I ain't gay and ain't got nothing to do with it, okay?
Trump gets along with everything. Trump keeps the peace. Trump makes the economy better.
Do you think Trump is the only guy for the job right now?
He is the best candidate.
The best candidate?
And the toughest. We need him.
If Donald Trump becomes president, what would you like to see him do to Democrats?
Escort him to the gallows.
Really? You want him to kill his political opponents?
I didn't. You asked me what I wanted to see. You asked me what I wanted to see.
Right, but you want to see Trump kill his political?
Justice done.
What would they be sent to the gallows for?
Treason.
That's what we're up against, you guys. That's what we're up against.
These are MAGA's words of wisdom.
These people vote. They vote. They are loyal. They will show up at the polls in 2028. They vote. Okay? So sure, we joke about these and we have fun with these little sound bites, but these folks vote. You heard this woman say, I am totally fine with Donald Trump protecting a network of predators, of which he is one. I'm fine with that because I like his policies. That's where we sit now. And I've seen more and more people talking about that. Like, it's fine because what he's doing is better for America. This rise of Christian nationalism, which is, I believe you can draw a straight line to our situation in the Middle East currently. Straight line, right? But they don't see it that way. Our friends on the right just don't see it that way. We do because we're smart. Goldberry, how are you today?
Doing good. How are you doing today? You were talking about Christian nationalists, and I just wanted to point out that on TikTok, I got sent an ad for Christian healthcare ministries.
Oh, God.
This is they're calling themselves a sharing charitable organization in which you can get biblical health care. And they're calling themselves an alternative to government health care. So it sounds like they're trying to be a nonprofit, but also profit off of healthcare. But, for those who, and we hear them all the time, who talk about how evil the government is, how you can't trust secular businesses, how they don't want their money going toward abortions, this is the kind of scam that they're going to fall for and think that they're covered and have health care. But yeah, the Left Behind guys now propping them up. So
yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, it does. All right, you take care of yourself.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate you being here. Have a good day. That's crazy. We talk about this in terms of how the messaging works to get in the minds of the hive mind, the cult-like mind, because the president is using their faith against them because they generally believe that he is the Messiah. And just in that presser the other day, I want you to hear this. When they hear this shit, they just jump on board. Okay, here you go.
Do you believe that God supports the United States actions in this war?
I do, because
And have you
God
sought
is
his direction?
good, because God is good, and God wants to see people taken care of. God doesn't like what's happening. I don't like what's happening. Everyone says, I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy it. These two guys don't enjoy it. People say, oh boy, they're so tough. I don't like seeing people killed. I've ended 8 wars.
No, you haven't.
Nobody's ever done it. The person who won the Nobel Prize came to me and said, you deserve the Nobel Prize. Wow. She announced that. When they announced, they said, goes to Maria. She's a great person, really a good person.
Wow.
She said, no. This is ridiculous. They gave me the Nobel Prize. President Trump ended 8 wars. I could go over every one of them, including India and Pakistan, where the Prime Minister of Pakistan said, President Trump saved from 30 to 50 million lives. That makes me much happier than what we're doing right now. That makes me much happier. We have one more to end, by the way.
Okay, my guy. The calls are coming from inside the House now because of all this shit. Again, the argument that J.D. Vance made to the president and Marco Rubio saying, if you do this, you're going to lose your base. You're going to start to lose your coalition. Gas prices are going to spike. You made these promises. And then, of course, he kowtowed. So Tim Dillon is one of the, I keep an eye on some of these right-wing podcasters. I'm always curious as to how they respond, like where's the line for them. A lot of them have been sort of lukewarm on support. Tim Dillon has kind of had enough. So here you go. This is an interesting take.
To run as an America first and you're going to take care of America and then turn around and go, all of these things, daycare, Medicare, Medicaid, we have nothing to do with that. We're fighting wars. That's what we're here to do. We're here to have a defense budget of $1.5 trillion, and we're here to fight wars. It is the greatest scam in history. You got to hand it to him. And I mean, truly, and not in, again, not in a moral way, but you got to hand it to him. This is the greatest about face in political history that I have really ever seen.
Tim Dillon sparked debate with a sharp critique of America First narratives, arguing that there is a disconnect between campaign messaging and policy focus. You think? Where the fuck have you been, dude? Shit, we've been talking about this for a fucking decade. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Liam, the host is always whining. What am I whining? What am I whining about, my guy? You saying that the host is whining is you whining, just so you know. Tim Dillon sparked a debate with a sharp critique of the America First narrative, arguing that there is a disconnect between campaign messaging and policy focus in his remarks. He pointed to discussions around reduced emphasis on domestic programs like daycare, Medicare, and other social support systems, while significant attention and resources continue to be directed toward global conflicts and the military efforts. His comments reflect a broader conversation taking place across political and public spaces about how governments balance domestic priorities with international commitments. Supporters of current policies often argue that global engagement is essential for national security and long-term stability. Let's pause there for a second. That's the message. You know, we can't have health care if our nation's not safe. We can't have an education system if our nation's not safe. You know how I feel about that. Again, some supporters of current policies often argue that global engagement is essential for national security and long-term stability, while critics question whether those priorities come at the expense of internal welfare and public services. This exchange adds to the ongoing debate around what America First should mean in practice, especially as economic pressure and policy decisions continue to impact everyday citizens. So, as predicted, right, by J.D. Vance and others, we saw the writing on the wall. This was going to happen. Kamala warned us. You're exactly right. Hillary warned us. Kamala warned us. We all warned you. We told you this is exactly what, I mean, by the fucking book. Literally by the book. We talked about the degradation of rights. We talk about overreach of government. We talked about criminality. All these things. Because I was told that if I voted for Kamala Harris, that we would have unchecked capitalism, that our prices would go up, that gas prices would spike, that inflation would rise, that we'd be losing jobs, and we'd go to war with Iran. Well, I voted for Kamala Harris, and all those things happened. So this is Pete Hegseth. This is just a couple of days ago talking about what he thinks of service members.
Many of our young people are too fat, or you guys have all delivered. And I know it's not easy on the basic ingredients on recruiting, that too many of our young people are too fat or too dumb, or not dumb, that's wrong. We're just not educating them properly, or they've got criminal records, or PT or ADHD, all these other things. There's a lot of things contributing to what someone may or may not qualify to get.
Lovely. Give me 1 second. Lovely. But that's a strong recruiting message. Hey, you're too fat and too dumb. Join the military. Okay, good to know, Pete. And this guy is at the tip of the Christian nationalist spear. Okay, so there's numerous figures within the Republican Party and the conservative movement that are turning. Midas Touch has done some good reporting on that, so I'll just go and play a little bit of sound for you here, and I'll take a quick little break.
Point prior to this, Coulter saying he's committed war crimes. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying he's not a Christian. Candace Owens kind of worrying about the state of nuclear annihilation openly. I mean, that's like this. I feel like it's getting underappreciated a little bit, that these people, of all people, are making, if this came from the left, if these critiques came from the left, it would be obviously dismissed as Trump derangement syndrome. But these are seriously right-wingy, nutty people, and they're all being like, I'm scared for humanity, more or less.
Well, I think the Trump derangement syndrome is spreading. Perhaps it's contagious. I mean, you're right. Typically, like the kind of rightward critique of Trump is sort of like the classic, like bad boy R's, good czar. The president has bad advisors. We're seeing this a little bit regarding this war, but in this case, they're really sort of putting him outside the bounds of the party of what's acceptable. They're saying, that this is he's not a Christian, as you said, he's satanic, he's this mad king. Famously the mad king Aerys in Game of Thrones, they had to get a knight to take him out, Jaime Lannister. And so I think Candace is recalling that specific thing. Yes, it's really the deep lore. So I do think, and Candace, I mean, she's almost saying like, will someone do something? Will Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte Macron step in? One thing I thought was interesting here in Candace's case, and really in all these people, I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is someone who is deep in QAnon, right? QAnon once thought, you speaking of Trump being a messianic figure, they saw Trump as this guy who would save the world, and now she's turned on him. Candace was in good enough of a position with Trump that if you believe that he called her to ask her to lay off Brigitte Macron, which I think is relatively credible, that was like a year ago, 9 months ago. It was relatively recently that they were on, she and Trump were on terms that, she could just, or he would just call her up and say, hey, can you do me a favor? And now the war, I think, has really polarized the right so much.
You think? Remember, right? This was, I've said this a lot, and it's worth repeating. There was common ground that existed between most Americans and the radical right and even the MAGA right, that none of us wanted any more wars. None of us wanted any more imperialism. None of us wanted to send our troops to die abroad. We found common ground on that. It wasn't talked about enough because there was still everything else connected to it. But I do think that there was common ground on that. I'm sure you guys would agree, right? Here we sit now, and they're all like, what the fuck is going on now? And they're leaving him. His support is at 31%. His support currently is the lowest of any president in history, modern history, since we've had polling. It's hemorrhaging. I don't even know what we would call it. Would we call it hemorrhaging? Would we call it, just the rats are jumping off the ship? I have to switch gears. I don't know, but I've got some more on that topic I want to cover in just a second. Just want to thank some people first, if I could. Let's see. Julianne, thank you so very, very much. The Dollar Train, but for $5, because $4 for those that I may want to, but for those that may but want to but can't. Julianne, that's very kind of you to contribute to the Dollar Train for those people who can't. That's very, very kind. I appreciate that. You're very sweet. Let's see. Drea for the Do Something Tour. Thank you, Drea. That's very kind of you. Amy, thank you so very much. You don't need to do that. I appreciate you. You're very kind. Also, while we're on the green, we've got, I want to thank to Stacy. Stacy says you're the best. I appreciate you, Stacy. Rhonda for the Dollar Train. Appreciate you. Raphael, thank you so very, very much for $20 for the Do Something Tour. Alicia, thank you very, very much. You're incredibly kind. You guys are all so awesome. I appreciate you all very, very much helping us out, get out on the road. Need your help. We are looking for sponsors. Appreciate that. And over here, okay, that's it for now. One more, actually. Maria, I don't think I got you yesterday. Thank you for your kindness, Maria. I appreciate you. All right, so I want to unpack this a little bit more. We've talked about Christian nationalism quite a bit. But the how it's being delivered to us is interesting because of what the right claims to say that they want. Actually, before I do that, I want to close the loop on something first. We talk in this space often about how the messaging machine supports the president, and even the messaging machine that's always had the ability to, play the promo. Should I play the promo? Okay, I'll play the promo. No problem, I will. Thank you for that. I will. I think it's a good idea. If you guys don't mind, I'll play it. Being honest. A lot of people in this country are tired. Not just busy tired. I mean soul tired. Tired of working hard and still feeling like they're falling behind. Tired of watching the news and feeling powerless. Tired of hearing promises every election season and then watching nothing change. And if you ever felt like your vote doesn't matter, like your voice doesn't count, I want you to know something. You're not alone, and you're not wrong for feeling that way. Because when you feel ignored long enough, you stop believing anyone is listening. And when you stop believing anyone is listening, you stop showing up. But here's what I've learned in my life. The moment that good people stop showing up is the moment the wrong people take over the room. That's why I'm launching something called the Do Something Tour. Not because I think I have the answers, not because I'm here to tell anyone what to think, but because I believe we're losing something precious in this country, and that's our faith in each other. I'm going to travel the country to sit down with people who feel forgotten, people who feel dismissed, people who feel like the system is built for someone else. and I'm going to listen. I want to hear what broke your trust. I want to hear what you've lived through. I want to hear what you wish the people in power actually understood about your life. Because the truth is, democracy is not a speech. It's not a slogan. It's not something that happens once every 4 years. Democracy is people. It's parents trying to keep their kids safe. It's workers trying to keep food on the table. It's communities trying to stay whole. It's people who don't want to be a headline. They just want to be okay. And I know this. If we want change, we can't just hope for it. We have to participate in it. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm not asking you to know every issue. I'm not asking you to trust politicians. I'm asking you to trust your own worth. To remember that your voice matters, even if it's been ignored. To remember that your vote matters, even if it hasn't felt like it has. And to remember that your presence matters, because this country belongs to you, too. So this is my invitation. Come back in, not because the system deserves you, but because your community does. Your kids do. Your future does. This is the Do Something Tour. And if you've ever felt powerless, I want you to hear me clearly. You still have power. So, let's do something. Together. It's a fight, friends. It's a fight. There's people that are out there, like I say, they galvanize to vote around people that you heard that woman admit it herself. I don't care that Donald Trump's protecting predators. I like his policies. Well, we care. So that's the pitch. I appreciate you all and can't do this without you. So thank you in advance. Okay. Let me. I do want to get into this whole the claims that the Christian right is always made about our country. And whether or not we are a Christian nation, we know the truth of that. Before I do that, though, let me just go through the right-wing echo chambers and their response. This is from a couple days ago about how the messaging connected to Iran and the promises made and the promises broken is even impacting Fox News.
Against a lot of people saying it wasn't going to work, introduced tariffs. Mm-hmm. He's brought back a lot of manufacturing.
Although he hasn't.
He improved the gas and oil situation.
Although he didn't.
And we saw gas prices lower. We saw jobs come up. And I think when we've been talking about it all morning, we were on the verge in April, if not for the war, to see an absolute boom in this economy. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, tempered a little.
No. So I'm going to pause right there. So I had said before, if the president had literally said, Peepaw, put on your new diaper and just go play golf, and we're not going to do a goddamn thing. He could have put people in cabinet positions. They could have traveled the country. They could have just flexed that they were the secretary of this or the secretary of that, not done a goddamn thing. We'd be fine. This whole thing started with this Liberation Day bullshit. And look where we are now.
A little bit because of the war, right. But not as much as people thought, and we're seeing that in some of the numbers this week. Yeah. That it's not the boom we thought, but it's also not the bust you would expect from a war that involves so much oil. Here is.
Okay. Totally fine. Nothing to see here. And then there's this classic moment. Again, I share this with you because we are now on the verge of the United States House of Representatives potentially voting on a 42% increase to the defense budget that apparently we can afford. So here is a montage that I compiled for you. This goes back to a very famous moment prior to the election on childcare, how far we have come.
To prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that. Childcare is childcare. There's something you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country.
Okay, so that was that moment in time. Campaign promise. That 3-on-3 debate that I was in, was it last week? I think it was last week. I even got some agreement. I reminded folks that I'm like, he made that promise about childcare, and people were like, yeah, he did. Yeah, that's crazy that we can say that then it's a campaign promise, but now we can't. Okay. And this is what he said just,
Other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50
and this is a couple days ago.
states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up. But it's not possible for us to take care of daycare, Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things. They can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing: military protection. We have to guard the country.
See, that's the situation, right? And here's the line. This is the dividing line in our country, right? We can't afford social safety programs. We can't afford funding for SNAP. We can't afford healthcare premium. We can't afford to support healthcare premium costs by reintroducing subsidies. We can't afford expansion to rights. We can't afford investing in infrastructure. We can't afford investing in education. We can't afford helping middle-class families with student loan debt. We can't afford to reduce fees on junk bonds. Not on junk bonds, on predatory lending practices. We can't afford to do all these things. We can't afford to do any of that. He told you, we can't afford to do it. But we can certainly afford a $500 billion increase to our defense budget. It's a real simple question. This is a really, really simple question. If you've got, in America today, you've got $500 billion to spend, knowing that we already have $1 trillion defense budget. If you were in charge, remember the Dr. Seuss book? If you were Gerald McGrew if you ran the zoo, what would you do? You've got $500 billion to spend. Where do you want to spend it? Do you want to spend it on healthcare, education, infrastructure, preservation of rights? Or do you want to continue to perpetuate the war machine? And we see it. I was on a panel with a 21-year-old yesterday, and so far gone, so far indoctrinated. And thank you, Sanjay, for trying. You did your best. And then a couple days ago, we had George. And George's argument is, well, there's a better ROI. There's a better ROI on feeding the war machine. No. There isn't. There never has been. And there never will be. There never will be. You can't measure something like that. But what we do know is that nations that invest in their education, we don't even have to use other nations. We can use our own country. You could look at states like Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Vermont and California and Washington State and Illinois. What do? They invest in public health for their citizens. They invest in education for their citizens. And what happens? That's where the GDP comes from. The GDP comes from, right? People want to criticize these liberal-leaning states, but, they're models for the world. Minnesota, for example. Criticize it all you want. Minnesota, progressive policies from Tim Walz. And the reason that the Trump administration and others go after him is because those programs work and they're effective. Hi, Mia. Because they work and they're effective. That's why people do it. I know, the 16-year-old running for governor of Vermont, I'm working on trying to get him on our show. He's a friend of a friend. He goes to school with my daughter. I'm trying to get him on the show. I'm working on it. So in case you don't know, there's a 16-year-old who's running for governor in Vermont, and I'm trying to get him on the show. I'm working on it. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, it's a clear divide. How do you want your money spent? I know we don't get to choose, but we should. Peter Welch, right? Are you going to sign on to that supplemental? You better not. I called you out on that yesterday. I got a commitment from you, right? What kind of country do you want to have? We settle. I think Ash said this earlier in the comment section. We settle for fucking shit. I'm sick and tired of settling. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why do we settle? Why do we take table scraps? Because we have been conditioned to do so. We put our hands out and we're told that that's all you deserve. Is it? Is that all we deserve? And who's making those decisions? The 900 billionaires whose combined wealth is $8.2 trillion. They're the ones that are making the decisions. So if I had that choice between those two priorities, whether it be universal health care tomorrow or getting all money out of politics tomorrow, I would take the latter. Because I believe if money is gone, then we can get health care. Because the majority of our country believes in access to affordable health care. The majority of our country believes that rights should be preserved. Progress. Moving our country forward. It's not that difficult if you think about it. It just takes a little bit of courage. Abundance abounds. How are you today?
Good morning, brother. Thank you for speaking truth. And I love the idea of your tour. I think that's great because I still believe that there's more that unites than divides us as a people and as a nation. When you speak about these billionaires, this small group of people around the world, really, a lot of the same people who are in the Epstein files, right? They've imposed upon us. Absolutely, the Epstein class. Let's call them that. Exactly. They've basically imposed a paradigm of scarcity, a false paradigm of scarcity, mind you, as evidenced just by the fact that, like you just put out there, you can find the money and ask for what, another $1 trillion towards the war machine, but you can't find money for healthcare and daycare. That in and of itself is an affront to humankind. And when you think about the fact that this scarcity has been imposed upon us, and you think about all the lives that have been lost to illness, to wars, these are crimes against humanity on a scale that it's hard for us to even conceive of. And I want people to understand and realize that what we're living in is a falsehood, because this doesn't have to be the way it is, and it is within our power to change it. We outnumber them, and we're going to have to make them hear us in ways that they won't soon forget.
I don't disagree with any of that. The question then becomes, it requires us to put faith in each other. That's what Do Something's about, right? We live in a society. We share resources. We share advantages. We are a privileged nation. There's no doubt about it. We have more than we would ever need here. And from a priority perspective, we just don't prioritize the right things. So it requires us to have faith in each other. It requires us to say, we can demand this shit. We can fix this system. And it's, by the way, we the people. Money in politics is bad on both sides. People taking large corporate dollar donations and buying people's votes is bad. I look at the Democratic Party as harm reduction. I look at them as public transportation, getting me closer to where I want to go. I'm willing to walk the rest of the way. More people need to be willing to do that too.
And we're worthy. You're worthy as a human being of having those things, of enjoying your life. Doesn't matter what kind of car you drive, how big your house is, what your income level is, what kind of job you have. We are all intrinsically of value. And what this false paradigm of scarcity has done, it has sucked the soul life out of so many people who go to a 9-to-5 every day and really, really can't stand their jobs, right? Or busting their butts working 2 and 3 jobs at a time and have no time to really enjoy, to get to know themselves, much less their children. My God, the agony that causes in so many families. So yes, I agree. We have to come to a mutual understanding that it's either our mutual benefit or to our mutual annihilation. So thank you for doing what you do yet again, brother. I appreciate
you, friend. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. Be safe out there. Yeah, he's right. I mean, I can't convince more people of. I can't tell you what you should prioritize. I can ask you to prioritize it. I can't tell you that you should be, it's not a flex when he was addressing this. It's not a flex for somebody for anybody to say, I don't care what your political affiliation is or your lot in life. It's not a flex to say you work 2 jobs. It's not a flex to say, hey, I work 70 hours a week so I can provide for my family. That's not a flex. I don't want you to work 70 hours a week to provide for your family. You don't have to do that. You know, you might have to now. There may be no choice. Don't forget the solution to rising prices in MAGA America now is just to go out and get another job. It's not a flex. It's not. I want you to spend time with your kids. I want you to. One of the, I mean, there's lots of contributing factors, but one of the factors that led me to, leave corporate America, I had a really good job. I was making over $200,000 a year, I'll tell you. And I had an incredible benefits package. I had an expense account. I traveled. I was a prominent position. I had a leadership pillar. I made decisions for an organization. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? I was, I could work from home, but I was feeding the machine, and then people criticized. I was alone pushing back against changes to return to work policies. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I gave it up. Has it been a struggle since? Absolutely. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. My nest is getting empty. I'm feeling it. I have been up in my feels a lot lately. My nest is getting empty. My daughter's leaving for college in 4 months. The countdown is on. And I am feeling it. And that's what you're supposed to do, right? You don't believe me, baseball? Okay, that's fine. You don't have to believe me. I don't care. Don't believe me. I'm glad you said that, baseball 2024. Go ahead. You can jump in the box and you can challenge me about that. You won't. You'll just run, which is fine. That's fine. I don't care. So anyway, it's not a flex. So for people that are out there, especially young men, because this is the red pilling and black pilling, you've been convinced that you should just work. You should be convinced. You should just work. That's it. Because if that's what you put value on yourself, that the only thing you equate your success with your financial contributions, okay. I wish it wasn't that way, but that's okay. Oh, by the way, at baseball, Sam found a sock for you. Cool. Thank you, Sam, for finding that sock. Anyway, and part of this is the sort of the young Republicans maybe starting to realize this too. I don't know if they're necessarily going to convert on the side of socialism, but CPAC has not been doing well because they've been trying to recruit from that same group of people, right? So this is Jason Selvig of the Good Liars was talking about this recently. I think this soundbite is really interesting.
Some of the people that were there who were younger, in their 20s, they said they came to kind of see the funeral of CPAC and just confirm that it really was over.
So, well, what do they think is coming next? It dies, and what takes its place?
I think it's Turning Point. And I have to say, I think some of the things that some of the younger people that I talked to were a little bit scary because they were saying things that sounded a lot like white nationalism. It sounded racist, to be honest.
What did they say?
Well, they were saying basically that the United States was founded by Europeans, and that is the identity of the United States. And it was a mission from God to conquer a land, and the United States was conquered by Europeans, and now that they're blessed. The United States is blessed by God because of conquering the people that lived here before. And it was more about religion and more about Christianity and that identity. And that included things like teaching the Bible in school and teaching it literally, like Noah's flood actually happened. All these things actually happened. So it was very different from the people we talked to before who were like, Trump is number one. It seems like it's moving in a different direction that is not Trump. And to me, I find that worrying. And I've heard this from talking to people who have children who are in their 20s or in college. They'll say, "Oh, my son is watching Nick Fuentes all the time," and it's like people you wouldn't expect. Like I think a friend of mine would say that they had a friend who just got really into Nick Fuentes. So it's happening, and you're kind of seeing it bubble to the surface now, which it's very different from the Trump rallies we've gone to. Like the way people are talking about this is very different than what we heard in the past.
He's so right. And I think the cautionary tale here is that CPAC is losing support because if you look at the panel, it's what's his name? I forget the guy's name. He's a white Christian. Somebody will know because the chat's smart. He's sort of the face of CPAC. You get the counter programming within the right wing to CPAC is Turning Point. And then Turning Point even has fractures because people in Turning Point don't think that they're extreme enough. So then you get the Nick Fuentes crowd, and then you get the Groyper community. So yes, it's good that CPAC is sort of going away, but the rise of extremism, don't forget there was that reporting a while back about the young Republicans. Again, people saying that these are the leaders of the future. They were already in prominent positions of leadership because they were sitting Matt Walsh, is that his name? I'll get it. Anyway, now it's stuck in my brain. There was that story that was reported by Politico or ProPublica where they got, they captured text messages of these young Republicans bragging or aligning themselves with Yahtzee rhetoric, right? Supporting, that Hitler wasn't all bad. That's the Matt Schlapp. Thank you, Judy. Thank you. Matt Schlapp. Exactly. That's who it is. Thank you, Judy. Hearts in the chat for Judy. Because again, smartest chat on TikTok, no doubt. I couldn't even formulate who it was. I just gave you an image and there you are because you're the smartest chat on TikTok. Give yourselves hearts in the chat for you because you're the smartest chat on TikTok. Point being is that this is the Republican Party. They are fueled by Christian nationalism. They are fueled by extremism. They are fueled by, Christian nationalism. And it's dangerous. So we can say, cool, that CPAC is going down the rabbit hole or the dustbin of history, but what's replacing it? So again, what's our counter programming to that? Because there's no organizations like that. There's not enough left-leaning opposition in social spaces. The conservative right wants to try to convince you that the media is woke and left. That's just not true. It's never been true. Legacy media in our country has always been conservative. It's always been conservative. Sure, there are outliers, but by and large, it's always been conservative. You think CBS, ABC, and PBS and those news organizations are extreme? Of course not. What the right says is that they consider them extreme because they score high on fact checking. So apparently that's extreme. So we have to be paying attention to this shit. And I've said this before, and we're going to do a live on this topic about how not just the red pilling, but how I don't want to turn it into a parenting critique. It's just a reminder to parents to really be paying attention because the next generation of leaders are being red pilled, especially young men, right? Red pilled and black pilled, which is super fucking dangerous. Anyway, see if anybody in the box. T Cutie, how are you today? Hello, T Cutie, are you there? T Cutie, going once, going twice. Okay. All right, a couple other stories that I wanted to kind of get into today, and a lot more has to do with Pete Kegsbreath because he is still, at last check, still a member of the administration. I don't know if he's going to survive. Tulsi Gabbard's name is now on the shit list. Kash Patel's name, all because the federal government is at day 110, exactly, progressive in your pocket. It's the 110th day that the Trump administration and the federal government is breaking the law by not releasing all the documents connected to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. That's good to know. Actually, on that topic, let's play a little sound from Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche, of course, is the interim attorney general. And I don't know. This guy is almost worse than Pam Bondi, quite frankly. But here's a question about this is the guy. This is the guy who's now in charge of the Justice Department. In our history, there's always been a literal separation between the executive branch. Yes, the Department of Justice does fall under the executive, but there's been this firewall. And he says, no.
Since Watergate, there's been a kind of a firewall, if you will, on criminal investigations between the White House and the Justice Department.
I mean, that is the most false statement I've ever heard in my life. There is always communication between a president and his priorities and what the Department of Justice should be focused on and not focused on. That is.
See, this is a gaslight. right? He's trying to convince the American public by using legacy media, because no one's willing to challenge him, to say, oh yeah, it's totally normal. Absolutely. The president's priority is to go and lock up opposition, or to go and deny the rights of American citizens, or to violate law and order, or to engage in unconstitutional activities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's always been there. Nothing to see here. It's totally fine.
Not a new thing in this administration, although I know it sounds fun to say that it is. So as far as whether we would take a referral from the White House or take a referral from you even, yes. I mean, yes, if somebody knows about fraud, please tell us. And so if the president of our United States says, I have heard that there is ongoing fraud in Minneapolis, Minnesota, like any president before him, I hope that the Attorney General would absolutely say, yes, we'll investigate that. All right.
That is, wow. Oh, I'm going to play that again because this is so
Historically, as you know, since Watergate, there's been a kind of a firewall, if you will, on criminal investigations between the White House and the Justice Department.
I mean, that is the most false statement I've ever heard in my life. There is always communication between a president and his priorities and what the Department of Justice should be focused on and not focused on. That is not a new thing in this administration, although I know it sounds fun to say that it is. So as far as whether we would take a referral from the White House or take a referral from you even, yes. I mean, yes, if somebody knows about fraud, please tell us. And so if the president of our United States says, I have heard that there is ongoing fraud in Minneapolis, Minnesota, like any president before him, I hope that the Attorney General would absolutely say, yes, we'll investigate that. All right.
I don't know if Todd realizes that, but what he just described is fascism. That the president says, oh, by the way, I believe that there's fraud in Minnesota. And then because the president says that, the Department of Justice will go and investigate. And this is, I don't know how to say this other than just to say it. This is where education matters, right? You have to have an independent justice system. You have to have it. And I know what the right is going to say. I know people who've not yet had a sock stuffed in their mouth. By the way, hearts in the chat for Sam for having a box of farm socks that she can literally just jam in people's mouths all day in the chat. So hearts in the chat for Sam, please. Anyway, how can they sit there and say that the Biden Justice Department was weaponized against Donald Trump? The Biden Justice Department investigated and indicted Hunter. I don't think you can get any more independent than that. I really don't. And here we are, famous True Social post from a year or so ago. Pam, the direct message that because our president is a fucking idiot, went public. Why are you not bringing indictments against James Comey and Letitia James and John Brennan, et cetera, et cetera. And then just days after that, indictments. It's not the norm. And again, our friends on the right, because they're in a cult, because they have been indoctrinated to believe that, well, hey, Trump was totally the target, weaponization, witch hunt, blah, fucking blah. Todd Blanche is literally telling you, Acting AG Todd Blanche rejects the ideas that presidents shouldn't influence DOJ priorities, calling it completely false and saying referrals from the White House are standard practice. I can be objectively critical of Joe Biden for not perhaps pressuring Merrick Garland to do his job. I think Merrick Garland was in a position where he was desperate to try to repair and rebuild that independence, and it cost us because it just took too long. Plain and simple. But for Todd Blanche to say that is just fucking comical. All right. I want to talk about what's happening in Hungary. Okay. First, a little context. J.D. Vance is a political opportunist. He oftentimes has a difficult time deciding which side of the couch to sit on, he will find the most comfortable cushion and he will get comfy. Case in point, the things he has said about Trump in the past. He's over in Hungary right now, and we're going to talk about this in just a moment. Okay. Back in 2016, Vance ripped Trump apart, calling him America's Schmittler and a morally reprehensible idiot in leaked emails and interviews. He vowed never Trump, donating to anti-Trump causes, real records, lock it in, no fan, just pure contempt, but something shifted him overnight. To dig into his hate, you have to read the untold story. The untold story is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, the billionaire spider at the center. Thiel's Palantir spies on everyone. Government contracts worth billions, track your data, predict moves, crush dissent. Vance worked under Thiel at his firms in Silicon Valley. Soaked in that surveillance world, Palantir feeds the elite total control tech. Spot the link, and Vance's role as an insider snaps into clear focus. Lock, stock, and soul, he poured $15 million into Vance's Senate run, flipping the script from critic to cheerleader. Why the cash flood? To install a Palantir pawn in power, harvesting data while pretending populism. Grasp the idea, and the White House infiltration hits hard. Vance now parrots Trump, but his past screams fraud. Palantir's tech already watches borders, wars, your online life. Vance pushes it deeper into policy. Elites use him to lock in the surveillance state forever. They silence leaks like this fast, burying the trail. This is the deep state's perfect implant. I mean, I know MAGA would never believe this, but they are the deep state. They are. This is what the deep state is. The complaints from the right has always been that this has been a left-leaning sort of deep state. No. This is the deep state. J.D. Vance hides behind an agenda, but he's Thiel's Trojan domination. Palantir hired this loony to just spy. It predicts uprisings, engineers elections through shadow ops. Vance's Yale ties linked to CIA grooming programs, prepping him since law school, pulling global resets. That's J.D. Vance. Okay, we know that he's talked about these things disparaging. He is an amoeba politically. He is over in Hungary, because there's a big election coming up in Hungary. And I want you to hear a couple things that he has to say about Viktor Orban as he's standing on stage with him.
What's happened in the midst of this election campaign is one of the worst examples of foreign election interference that I've ever seen or ever even read about.
Wow.
The bureaucrats in Brussels have tried to destroy the economy of Hungary. They have tried to make Hungary less energy independent. They have tried to drive up costs for Hungarian consumers, and they've done it all because they hate this guy. But I think that what the people of Hungary, what I would encourage them to do is ask themselves the question, not who's pro or anti-Europe, not who's pro or anti the United States of America, but who is pro you? Who is pro the people of Hungary? In my experience, I've seen a guy who has ferociously advocated for the interests of Hungary. I'm here to help him in this campaign cycle, and yet when I sat down with Victor, we didn't talk about politics. We talked about Here are 5 things that we need, that the Hungarian people need from the United States in order to further our partnership and in order to achieve prosperity. That's the kind of leadership that is needed. And on everything from digital censorship, why are bureaucrats in Brussels telling social media companies what information they're giving to Hungarian voters?
My guy, you work for Peter Thiel, okay? You were literally. That's why I played I read to you that little intro, just to give you a background. I mean, come on, JD. You can gaslight the Hungarian people, but we're watching, you couch fucker.
I think the voters of Hungary are adults. They are sovereign in their own country, and they should be able to look at whatever information they would like to about the election without somebody in a faraway capital treating them like children. Sovereignty, democracy are fundamentally about the people choosing, and part of the reason why we're here.
Okay, sovereignty and democracy are about the people choosing. Okay, so SAVE Act, JD? I'm curious.
Part of the reason why the President of the United States sent me here is because that we think the amount of interference that's come from the bureaucracy in Brussels has been truly disgraceful. I won't tell the people of Hungary how to vote. I would encourage the bureaucrats in Brussels to do the exact same thing. So, Victor, thank you, and it's good to see you.
J.D. Vance went to Budapest not to defend democracy, not to strengthen alliances, and not to represent American values. He went there to campaign for Viktor Orban, one of the most openly anti-democratic leaders in Europe and one of Putin's favorite authoritarian lapdogs. Think about how insane that is. The vice president of the United States is literally overseas attacking our democratic allies while boosting a man who has spent years gutting press freedoms, weakening the courts, demonizing immigrants, and cozying up to Moscow. So what exactly is the message? That America no longer stands with democracies? That we now side with strongmen, grifters, and Kremlin-adjacent autocrats? That Trump and Vance's America First was always a scam, and what they really want was authoritarians first, because that's exactly what this looks like. J.D. Vance is not representing American strength. He's representing American collapse. He's humiliating this country on the world stage by acting like a campaign surrogate for a wannabe dictator in a foreign country while undermining the very alliances that have kept Europe stable for generations. And Trump owns every second of it. This is what the MAGA foreign policy has become. Insult our allies, praise dictators, echo Kremlin talking points, and call it patriotism. It is weak. It is disgraceful, and it is dangerous as fuck. The United States should be standing shoulder to shoulder with democracies, not sending its vice president abroad to audition for the authoritarian fan club. J.D. Vance is an embarrassment, Trump is a disgrace, and together they are turning America into a global punchline. We have to talk about this, though, because more and more people in Congress are talking about the 25th. The Congress does not have the 25th as an option. They have impeachment. I think the number is now 70 Democrats have gone on the record saying that they support articles of impeachment filed against the president. Ideologically, I support it. I just don't think I think it's a waste of time, because I can't imagine you would get 67 senators to agree. As a reminder, okay, the vice president, our vice president, the vice president of the United States is supporting this guy, Viktor Orban. Orban is widely criticized for weakening democratic institutions in Hungary. He changed the constitution and election rules in ways that critics say favor his party. He expanded control over courts and judicial appointments. He reduced checks and balances. Organizations like the EU and the Freedom House have said Hungary has moved away from full democracy. Media control and the press. Government allies have acquired many major media outlets. When I go through this list, ask yourself, I could insert Trump's name in place of Orban's name. Government allies have acquired many major media outlets. Independent journalists report pressure and reduced access. Critics say this creates a pro-government media ecosystem. Anti-immigration policies. Orban is one of Europe's strongest opponents of immigration. Built border fences during his 2015 migrant crisis. Framed migration as a threat to national identity and security. Promoted Christian Europe rhetoric. Supporters see this as protecting sovereignty. Critics call it xenophobic. LGBTQ plus and social policies. Passed laws restricting LGBTQ content in schools and media. Opposed same-sex adoption and broader LGBTQ plus rights. These policies have drawn strong criticism from human rights groups and from EU institutions. Relationship with Russia and EU tensions. He maintains a relatively warm relationship with Russia even after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Frequently clashes with the EU over sanctions, rule of law issues, and funding. Hungary has had EU funds withheld over concerns about corruption and democratic standards. Corruption and patronage allegations. Critics say Orban's government steers public money to allies and loyal business figures, and the EU has investigated over concerns of the misuse of funds. That is the model for our president. Is there anything in there that you cannot draw a straight line to Trump? Anything? It's the fucking pick list. Democratic backsliding, media control and press freedoms, anti-immigration policies, LGBTQ woke policies, basically, and then relationships with Russia and EU tensions, and then corruption and patronage. I mean, you could not find a better list. It's the authoritarian wet dream. Got some more for you. Let me see if I can find this one. It's another statement in this same little press junket that he's on. This is JD Vance doing the little fucking. I'm going to be politically. I'm going to be an amoeba, and I'll respond to whatever the moment, however the moment strikes. So he is in Hungary, promoting Viktor Orban, advocating for Viktor Orban to become elected, based on, we know Orban's agenda. I just read it to you, and this is what he had to say. You'll hear this in two parts because of his change in tone.
Exactly who to vote for. We have got to.
So again, he says, I'm not telling Hungarians exactly who to vote for, followed by, we need to get Viktor Orban's back as Prime Minister of Vance.
Viktor Orban reelected as Prime Minister of Hungary, don't we?
Here you go again.
Well, I'm not telling you exactly who to vote for. We have got to get Viktor Orban reelected as Prime Minister of Hungary, don't we?
All this to say, when we talk about the 25th Amendment and we talk about impeachment, this is the guy that's waiting in the wings. Okay? This is the guy that is out there waiting in the wings. This is the guy who would potentially have Peter Thiel's money behind him. Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin. These are the guys that are leading this benevolent dictator sort of movement now that you hear online a lot. You're going to hear that a lot. If you go to right-wing spaces, especially young Groyper-type conservatives, they really have adopted this benevolent billionaire philosophy. I don't know what the fuck a benevolent billionaire even is. Like, you can't be I'm sorry, you can't be a benevolent billionaire. You can't be benevolent and be a billionaire. Now, you could do things with your money, but it just doesn't track, because you made your money through anything but benevolence, right? You were advantaged. You were the ones that benefited from it. Again, 900 billionaires in America. They've accumulated $1.2 trillion in wealth just since Donald Trump took office. Their combined net worth of $8 trillion. You can't be benevolent. A lot of those people are in J.D. Vance's corner, the Curtis Yarvin theory, or the model, the Peter Thiel model, and all those people. Yeah, it's totally oxymoronic. You're absolutely right. So when he's going overseas, first of all, talking about American influence in elections, that is full-blown election interference. I'm sorry, that's what it is. And yet here he is saying that, we need to be sure that we're protecting the integrity of our elections. Okay, that's fine. So Hungary prepares for their elections as the EU, Ukraine, and the U.S. awaits their results. On April 12th, millions of Hungarians will gather at the polls to vote. Reports by Gallup, Reuters, and The Economist predict it will be a significant event, and several countries across Europe and North America have started to take notice of Hungarian politics. The result of the parliamentary election in Hungary will shape the future of Hungarian relations with the EU, Ukraine, and the U.S. Now, it is interesting that J.D. Vance is there. It is interesting that he is there. Much like it was interesting that our president went to Texas recently to try to drum up support for John Cornyn and Ken Paxton with that division. It's also interesting that they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in defense of states that they wouldn't normally have to do. $44 million specifically in Georgia because on Ossoff, they want him replaced. So why is J.D. Vance spending so much time there? Because Viktor Orban's in trouble if there's a free and fair election. Current polls suggest that opposition leader Peter Magyar and his TISA party will perform well against Prime Minister Orban and the ruling Fidesz party. Magyar has focused his campaign on domestic issues within Hungary, where he has stressed the need for anti-corruption reform. He's also pledged to rebuild the Hungarian economy, and he hopes to strengthen democratic institutions. As for foreign policy, Magyar has called on Hungary to reduce its energy dependence on Russia, and he wants Hungary to mend relationships with the EU and NATO. This platform has attracted many young voters in Hungary. The Guardian and AP News reported that young Hungarians are hopeful that a Magyar victory would make history as they look to change the course of Hungarian politics. Despite Magyar leading in the polls, Hungary's electoral system is structured in a way that has historically advantaged the leading party. During parliamentary elections in Hungary, voters cast two ballots. The first ballot is for a candidate in the district where the voter resides. The second ballot is for a particular political party. Under Hungary's electoral law, votes cast for losing candidates and unused votes for winning candidates are applied toward the national party list total. This means that a political party can gain additional seats in parliament despite seeing its candidates lose in various districts. I read that and I'm like, what? So basically, the party in power gets to write the rules as to how votes are applied, even if their candidate doesn't win. Does that sound familiar to you? Because keep in mind, the SAVE Act is not going anywhere. It's not going to pass. But within state legislatures across the country and within municipalities and within courthouses and within town halls, there are election deniers everywhere. County clerks whose jobs were to simply count the votes, certify them in their district, and then send them to the Secretary of State. Those people are now election deniers. Those people can be a cog in the wheel to say, yeah, well, I don't agree with those votes. That's the threat. So this is the model. Hungary is becoming one of those models. And think about the people that Donald Trump idolizes. He's had Viktor Orban at Mar-a-Lago. He's had Viktor Orban at the White House. He's had Viktor Orban at Bedminster. Despite Magyar leading in the polls, Hungary's electoral system is structured in a way that has historically advantaged the leading party. This electoral system particularly favored Fidesz, which is Orban's party, during the 2022 parliamentary election, where the Atlantic Council reported that Fidesz secured 53% of the popular vote in 2022, yet the ruling party won a 68% majority in parliament. Members of the Hungarian diaspora also have historically favored Fidesz. Given these past events, Fidesz hopes for a similar outcome in the upcoming election. Orban and his party will do what they can to seek re-election, in contrast to Magyar and TISA, who've called for reforms and greater engagement with organizations such as the EU and NATO. We'll be watching this because I think it's an interesting, how do I want to say this? I'm not going to say it's a model because it's different, because much like other countries in Europe, the party that wins the majority in parliament, their leader becomes the prime minister. Canada does it that way. It's that way in the UK. So it's opposite sort of how our system functions. We elect a person and then his party takes over. They elect a party and then the person who leads their party becomes the prime minister. Prototype. It's a good word, Nwanda. Prototype. It's a good word to use. So why is JD Vance there? Why the fuck is JD Vance there? Because we've seen the rise of right-wing rhetoric and right-wing politics across Europe in particular, right? And you start to see the people that our president likes to talk about. They're authoritarian leaders. They're people like Viktor Orban. They're people like Erdogan. They're people like Kim Jong-un and his daddy Vladdy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's where we are. This clear divide globally. Don't think that what's happening in the Gulf is not about resetting the global imbalance to favor authoritarians. Christian nationalists and authoritarians, they don't want the existence, birds of a feather, exactly so, birds of a feather. They don't want the existence of democracies. All these kinds of things are to do away with democratic institutions. And the ironic part about this in our country is that the MAGA right in particular defends our freedoms. They talk about America being the freest nation on earth. They talk about America having all these rights and all these liberties and protections. And yet they support the degradation of those rights. You cannot deny the fact that our country currently is working overtime to take the rights away from people, women in particular, marginalized communities in particular. I mean, every day. That's why be a traitor to the patriarchy. That's where it starts. Excuse me. It's where it starts. If you want to pick up the merch, you can find it at the merch store, factsstillmatter.site and or FactsHQ. Go check it out. It's scary, but it's real. Excuse me. It is scary, but it's real. And the argument that we get, here's the hypocrisy, right? Hypocritical, ironic, they're both. When we talk about expansion of rights, I look at it as federally, if you will. Like, I don't believe we should be debating, food. I don't think we should be debating water, shelter, healthcare. Those should be just human rights. They shouldn't be politicized. We need politics to get where we want to. But when states want to do things that benefit their citizens, the right calls them radical leftist lunacy. But when the right wants to take away women's rights to their bodies, then they'll say it's fine, the state can decide. There's the divide. To me, again, comes around to priorities. Where do you sit? How do you want to, what do you want your country to look like? We fall down that rabbit hole again, and we're not paying attention. We don't show up at the midterms, or we don't show up at the general in 2028. We're going to get more of the same. This is a model they've been working on for decades. So a what the fuck moment is, what the fuck is the vice president doing in Hungary while there's a war raging? Okay, good to know. Speaking of the violation of rights, freedoms, liberties, and the prioritization of things that should matter but aren't, I give you the West Virginia governor. West Virginia, this is from Straight Arrow News, West Virginia governor vetoes foster care, health care bills after approving tax cuts. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey vetoed a dozen bills meant to help vulnerable residents days after signing a 5% personal income tax reduction. Morrisey cited uncontrollable costs in his veto letter, claiming the foster care bill's expansion of Department of Human Services programs would cost at least $5 million in the first year alone. West Virginia State Delegate Adam Burkhammer, a Republican from Lewis, countered that failing support West Virginia State Delegate Adam Burkhammer countered that failing to support foster youth now will likely mean housing them in one of our jails or prisons, later warning of a costlier future expense. That's a Republican saying, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Cutting funding for foster care? West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy estimates 80% of residents receive less than $145 annually from tax cuts, while the state forgoes $230 million in annual revenue. Federal data shows that 1,000 children are removed from homes annually due to neglect, with 200 removed solely for inadequate housing. Morrisey also voted prevention legislation without citing cost concerns. Prioritization. What are we doing? What are we doing? The headline is vetoes foster care, health care bills after approving a tax cut. What are we doing? Republican legislature dominated in West Virginia. The West Virginia legislature dominated by Republicans. They supported it. They supported funding for foster care. They supported health care. And the governor vetoed it. Why? Is that breaking news that Pam Bondi does not have to testify? Did I just see that? I know, Kipper, I know. Okay. I don't know. I guess I ask myself these simple questions. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? The DOJ is saying no? Okay, the DOJ is saying no, she does not have to testify. She's no longer an employee of the DOJ. Anyway, I'm going to play some sound from Todd Blanche. This is the new AG, or the acting AG. And remember, the independence of the Attorney General. Remember, that's the goal.
I love working for President Trump. It's the greatest honor of a lifetime. And if President Trump chooses to keep me as acting, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate me, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and I go back to being the DAG, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and asks me to go do something else, I will say, thank you very much. I love you, sir. So I don't have any goals or aspirations beyond that.
That's good to know. You don't have any more goals or aspirations beyond that. Okay, cool. Great. Good morning,
Oh,
Trevor.
please, Daddy, hump me in the ass. Oh, Daddy, oh. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. When did you last shit? Are you on the log? Is that you? Shame my mouth, bitch!
Hey, friends, could you go and vote? Would you mind? Would you mind, just showing up to vote? Would you mind volunteering in your... Listen, people here in here call me daddy, but for different reasons, my guy. I'm just saying. Anywho, would you mind voting, friends, that you're in here? Would you mind showing up at the polls? Excuse me. Would you mind volunteering in your community? Would you mind helping out a neighbor? Would you mind helping out a friend? Would you mind going to a school board meeting? Would you mind volunteering at a homeless shelter? Maybe next time you go to the store, pick up an extra pack of socks and menstrual products, because homeless shelters and food banks in general are always looking for those kinds of things. Would you mind doing those things? Because there are people like our previous guest that are out there. Okay? And yeah. So I get to fanboy because I got to put my arms around this sexy beast who's now joining our live. Good morning. Good morning,
came up
friend.
to
How
say
are you?
hi, Daddy. Hi, Daddy. I want to be clear. That is the human form of birth control that we just heard on your live. That was like, what the hell is wrong with kids? Where are their parents? Do you remember when we were kids and the streetlights would go on and they'd say, do you know where your children are? I want to say that to so many people 24 hours a day.
You mean certain things are drying up as we speak?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And shriveling and wilting and shrinking. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I am good. Yes, I'm good. It was so great to be in your city. Notice how I said that? It was wonderful to see you. It was wonderful to hang out with you. It was amazing. That was some of the highlights for me, was seeing all of our friends. And yes, people are real. You're not AI. RJ's out.
Right.
RJ is AI, but the rest of us aren't.
Oh yeah, he's not real.
Good to know.
RJ was a digital, what is it, like a hologram? And it wasn't a real person.
He was Max Headroom. That's who he was.
Well, and he also held my sign, and as if he was like proud of it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, let's be clear, deportation, he's like for it, apparently. And that
speaking of that, hang on. I think I have it here somewhere. Maybe. Yeah, there you go.
There it is. There it is. I was looking for it. Yeah,
actually,
that's my side.
You're over there like hovering in the corner.
And I'm pointing and I'm like, that guy. God.
Exactly right.
Unbelievable. That guy.
Exactly right. Thank you for the reminder that was birth control. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, that was actual birth control. I have a question for you because I'm going around TikTok taking bets. Obviously, we don't want the ceasefire to end. We think a ceasefire is good. We want peace. But do we think BB's going to hold to it? And obviously, he's not. So how many days are you going to give him?
That's a really good question. I'd like to get through today to kind of get a little bit more. Like, who do I think is going to break the ceasefire? I think it would be the country. Yes.
Right. He's over 2,000 times broke peace treaties and ceasefires. So that being said, the chances are really high. I'm giving it 48 hours, but then I'm hearing from MAGA that the ceasefire hasn't started yet until the strait is fully opened. So we're putting conditions on it already, which is making it tough to take bets. But I'm just asking all my friends, how many days? Who do you think is going to do it? Because it's not gonna last 2 weeks. I don't believe 2 weeks is real. I don't personally. Anybody else can get me wrong, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, considering that the ceasefire is based on Iran's terms, I mean, it's hard to say, because our president is such a great negotiator. Said nobody ever.
And did you see one of their terms is that even if future presidents come into office, that they can't be allowed to break the agreement of the JCPOA, like the new JCPOA. That's a dig directly at Trump. That is a dig directly at Trump. So he ain't gonna like that.
No, he's not. He ain't gonna like that.
No, because he's the reason why this is happening. Sorry, I'm over talk.
No. You're absolutely right. I was just going to say that he's the reason this entire thing is happening. So we were brain sharing again.
That thing we do.
We do.
God.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate you, and thank you again for hosting me in your amazing city. I really
Of course.
appreciate that.
Thank you for having me up. I hope MAGA come yell at you.
They may. They're triggered by the nails, Noel. We know that.
I mean,
thank you for
it
being
will
here,
do
friend.
that, and the sexiness and the daddiness. You know what I mean? So everybody can kick rocks and pound sand. If you want to come up and be MAGA and call him daddy, you can start paying him for that because Smack's work is work. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Okay. Thank you. Bye now. See you later. Bye. Sure. Hey, whatever it takes to fund capitalism. I guess. Donut, how are you today?
Hi, I just wanted to say on behalf of England to apologise for those children who are just on your life.
That's all good. That's fine. But thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
No worries.
You.
All right.
Have a good day. Be safe out there. All right. Bye. Yeah, it's true. She has a point. Okay. James, looks like you might have timed out, sir. Don't know. You requested, James. Did you get performance anxiety? Maybe. It does happen. Sorry, but c'est la vie. Good morning, my dude. You changed your profile picture. I almost didn't recognize you. How are you?
I did because you see the profile picture is like I've got sand all over my face, right? Because I'm in St. Barth with my wife celebrating her birthday for the last week. We're leaving today. But I wanted to give you guys some relief from all the bullshit in America. So I'm going to turn my camera on and I'm going to give you some vibes because, why not, right? So enjoy this. This is what I'm doing right now, y'all. This is where we're at. We're chilling. And, what do we have yesterday? We had Demolition Day or whatever the fuck this weirdo was talking about. Who knows? Tacoing again. But I wanted to come up and give your amazing community something to look at for a second, just to like zen out for a minute. Listen to the ocean.
Yeah.
So guys, life is bad, but life can be good. So don't let the bad shit get in your way.
Jesus.
Stay positive always.
I got snow last night, so thanks for that, dude. I appreciate you for that. Get the hell out of here. Let me see if I can do this. There. Yeah, that was nice. I appreciate you, Tony. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, okay. You had ice also. Yeah, we did it. We had ice. Yeah, we had ice. We had snow. I always say, come to Vermont for a good 8 inches, but not in April, although we didn't get that much. Okay, a couple other things here. What time is it? All right, we're good. All right, I want to go back. I want to play this sound that Jon Stewart had Mark Cuban on. And I'm bouncing around a little bit today because to me, the theme of today's show is what the fuck. Because there are so many what the fuck moments that we see every single day. And this is another example of the people that know Donald, like in his community. And when we always talk about how, MAGA's not going to get an invite. They're not going to go to Mar-a-Lago. They're not going to get invited to the ballroom. They're not going to get invited to Bedminster. They're not going to get invited to the Big Mac buffet. They're not going on Air Force One. They're not doing any of these things. Yet they think they do, right? They think they are. They think they're going to these places because, they're in the pick-me mold. So this is Mark Cuban talking about Trump and his billions and the confession that Trump made to Mark Cuban.
I'm like, Donald, why don't you go to a local small business and sit there at the table and just show off your business chops, right? And show people your business. He goes, Mark, Donald Trump and Mark Cuban don't go to people's houses and have dinner. Are you kidding me? That's who he is, right? When we talked about what's he going to do with the ground game, now I got all these religious people who are going to do the work for me. Jesus.
He runs a family business. So he is, in essence, a monarch. It's a dictatorship. And maybe there's not as much malevolence to his actions as, this America can be a subsidiary of the Trump organization, because this is how I run it. And they might say, well, we have checks and balances and division of government. And he just thinks to himself, yeah, no, we're going to get rid of that.
Yeah, that's the sense I get.
That's
right?
what it is.
Yeah, this is my country, right? Everybody else is bad. Donald good.
Yeah. Okay. So there is some reporting. I want to share this with you guys. So this is from Newsweek. This has to do with Pam Bondi. The Pam Bondi apparently will not testify. That is behind a paywall, guys, if anybody has that. It does look like the claim is that Pam Bondi won't appear for the April 14th House Oversight deposition. The DOJ says she was subpoenaed only in her former role, to which Nancy Mace responds because she said this immediately. Pam Bondi will soon leave her job as AG. My subpoena still stands. When the Oversight Committee moved to subpoena Bondi, I did it by name, not by or not as the sitting Attorney General of the United States released the files. So, that's interesting. Hang on one second. This is from the House Oversight Committee spokesperson. Quote, the DOJ has stated that Pam Bondi will not appear on April 14th for a deposition since she is no longer Attorney General and was subpoenaed in her capacity as the AG. The committee will contact Bondi's personal counsel to discuss next steps regarding scheduling her deposition. Department of Justice has stated Pam Bondi will not appear.
I'm like,
well, that's interesting because now that we have that information, I'm not surprised by that. But I want to go back to something that Todd Blanche said in this interview. Because it's now very telling. Keep this in mind, what he just said.
Historically, as you know, since Watergate, there's been a kind of a firewall, if you will, on criminal investigations between the White House and the Justice Department.
I mean, that is the most false statement I've ever heard in my life. There is always communication between a president and his priorities and what the Department of Justice should be focused on and not focused on. That is not a new thing in this administration, although I know it sounds fun to say that it is. As far as whether we would take a referral from the White House or take a referral from you even, yes. I mean, yes, if somebody knows about fraud, please tell us. And so if the president of our United States says, I have heard that there is ongoing fraud in Minneapolis, Minnesota, like any president before him, I hope that the Attorney General would absolutely say, yes, we'll investigate that. All right.
Okay. So in your words then, Todd, if the president said for Pam Bondi to appear for deposition because you are under the impression, based on what you just told us, that you do, in fact, take direction from the president, then why, again, is she not testifying? I think this is going to be very interesting because Nancy Mace's request for her deposition, her subpoena, named her, not in her capacity as AG. So let's be clear. The statement from the House Oversight Committee in response to the DOJ, because the DOJ has said, the Department of Justice has stated that Pam Bondi will not appear for a deposition since she is no longer Attorney General and was subpoenaed in her capacity as Attorney General. Nancy Mace's statement contradicts that because her statement is this: Pam Bondi will soon leave her job as AG. My subpoena still stands. When the Oversight Committee moved to subpoena Bondi, I did it by name, not by or not as the sitting Attorney General of the United States. Oh my God. When we talk about justice being served, it's the 110th day that the administration is denied the release of the Epstein files. And Pam Bondi's front and center, and she won't be questioned by Congress. Well, we'll see, because she would, in theory, then be in violation of the subpoena. And as Todd Blanche just said, listen, if you see crime, whatever it might be, you let us know and we'll investigate. Okay. Well, we're letting you know. We're letting you know we'd like you to investigate. Okay, guess we'll see.
Good morning.
Okay, they're back. They're back. They're back. How is that going to work? I'm trying to think about that now. Any lawyers in the house? Anybody want to jump in? I'm just curious because if the deposition or the subpoena names names, it didn't say, the subpoena doesn't say.
نزلت فورا.
Sorry, friend. These guys are just driving me crazy. This Barney goon. I'm trying to think. Just give me a second. I'm thinking this through. So if the subpoena is Pam Bondi, she was subpoenaed because of things that she did as Attorney General, but she was subpoenaed by name and not. See where I'm going? Again, Nancy Mace, my subpoena still stands. When the Oversight Committee moved to subpoena Bondi, I did it by name, not by or not as the sitting Attorney General of the United States. I don't know. Yeah, tell me about it. Fucking Nuremberg? Absolutely Nuremberg. Absolutely. Okay, I got a couple more things that I want to play today, and they're both regarding
local small business.
They're both regarding Pete Hegseth. Where is it? Oh, well, before I got too far away from let's do Pete Hegseth first, and then we'll talk about Mark Wayne, because that's crazy. So just a reminder, Pete Hegseth spent $93 billion on funds to buy lobster, ribeye steaks, Alaskan king crab, grand pianos, makeup rooms, and then Trump wants to increase the budget to $1.5 trillion in the Defense Department. But again, nothing to see here. That's fine, right? Where is this soundbite that I want to play about Pete? Oh, right here. Okay, so in case you guys were not aware, just days before the war, Pete's stockbroker was busy.
Pete Hegseth attempted to make a big investment in major defense companies in the weeks leading up to the U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran. 3 people familiar with the matter tell the Financial Times. Hegseth's broker at Morgan Stanley contacted BlackRock in February about making a multi-million-dollar investment in the asset manager's Defense Industrials Active Exchange-Traded Fund, the people said, shortly before the U.S. launched military action against Tehran.
Nice, right? Nothing to see here. Totally fine. Just what's one questionable financial transaction between friends? Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. How are you, Steve? I'm doing well.
I'm good. Thanks for asking. What's on your mind?
All right. So here's the thing. I was thinking that what if this was like a CYA firing? So instead of it being, I just want Blanchard or Bondi's doing a bad job or whatever, it was more so of, I'm going to fire you so that you can't testify because you no longer work for the Department of Justice. Yeah. But here's the thing.
Right. I've always
That's
thought
the thing.
that. Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I agree with you. The subpoena mentions her name, not her title.
Correct.
Not her employment or anything of that nature. So she still has to testify because since when can the Department of Justice control who goes before Congress?
They can't, but the chairman of the House Oversight Committee can. He can be the one to say we're not going to do that because it's a congressional subpoena, and so let's pull the thread here. A congressional subpoena, if you violate a congressional subpoena, it would be referred to whom? The Department of Justice. So who's going to enforce it? That's the question.
That part. All right. Also, for me, please do remind me who sits as the chairman. I know you're going to say somebody I don't like.
James Comer.
All right. It's a wrap. She's definitely not testifying. So it was fun while it lasted, right? It was fun.
I agree. I think I'm with you on that. Although it's going to be interesting because the name, it's specifically her name on it. It's not like you said. It's not her title as AG, and it's her name. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to just go away, but I highly doubt she'll testify next week.
Yeah, I doubt it also. Yeah. I doubt it also.
Great.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say. But thank you so much for having me as always, Steve. Have a great day. All right, bye.
You too, friends. See you later. Bye. It's a great point. right? I mean, we don't know necessarily where this is going to go, obviously, but the fact that it's her name on the subpoena and not the name of the AG is not good. I don't know who this is. Are we playing this little game today?
Please, brother, 5 minutes, please. Get the blast, please.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, friend. I made this decision, friends, because we've been very supportive of this, but we're starting to feel like it's become this thing, and I don't want to. It's a hard. Anyway, I feel like some people have been taking advantage of this a little bit, and I want to make sure that we can vet it out a little bit more. I'm not opposed to doing it, but I just want to make sure that we're trying to treat people equally here under these conditions. Okay, I've got 2 more things I want to play, and these are both. It's both Mark Wayne. I want you to listen to this. So Mark Wayne Mullen, not the brightest bulb in the tree. I think we can all agree. He is now responsible for Department of Homeland Security. By the way, the Senate and the House still not negotiated a way to pay them. But this is Mark Wayne talking about Homeland Security and sanctuary cities.
On the customs question, because if you do this at international airports, what would that mean for international travels and for imports? And also, have you been having any conversations with any leaders in any of these sanctuary cities about what this would look like or about them working together?
We're going to start having those conversations. As I said, this is just something I'm thinking. This isn't something that I'm necessarily going to do. But it's when I have to prioritize where I'm putting my Customs and Border Patrol because the Democrats aren't willing to fund Customs and Border Patrol. It only makes sense for us to do that.
First of all, that's a lie. Democrats are willing to fund Customs and Border Patrol, just not ICE, until they make some changes.
I mean, I'm not going to punish people that are wanting to fund Customs and Border Patrol, but I have to prioritize it because my funding only goes so far. And then when we start looking at sanctuary cities, as I said, if they're not enforcing immigration laws, then why would I be processing immigration in their city and turn them loose in their city?
But have they been screened at that juncture if they're being released by Customs and
to some degree, but we at Customs and Border Patrol Port of Entries, we catch people every day, constantly, and we rely on local law enforcement sometimes to hold those individuals. We got to have cooperation to some degree, and so, like I said, this is just something we're talking about because I have to prioritize, as I said, my Customs and Border Patrol since they're not being funded, and the Democrats are wanting to defund them. And it's an option. All options are on the table right now. When we start looking at trying to streamline and make DHS more efficient, I'm looking at every aspect. What is it that we can do? Where are we wasting dollars? And then I'll be real honest with you. I don't think sanctuary cities are legal. We are a nation of laws.
But states' rights, right?
As the Secretary of DHS, I don't get to pick and choose which laws I'm going to enforce.
My guy, that's exactly what the fuck you're doing. Holy shit.
Congress passes those. And for my Democrat colleagues that are working in the Senate, and I guess not my colleagues anymore, your colleagues, for the Democrats that are in the House and in the Senate, if you don't like the laws, then change it. Don't punish Customs and Border Patrol and ICE agents that we hired to do the job that you pass the laws for them to enforce. But if cities are going to sit there and say that they're not going to enforce immigration policies, then I'll repeat myself and say it doesn't make any sense for us to process international travelers through that city.
Does the president know about this idea?
Well, we've had very top-line conversations, but I imagine this conversation will come up today when I'm talking to him.
I want people to think about what he just said, okay? I just something I've been thinking about. What he is stating is he doesn't want international flights coming into states that are either sanctuary states or sanctuary cities. New York, Illinois, Chicago, California. So you want to cripple the economy in those states and internationally and domestically because what? You just thought about it? Okay, that's fine. Here's more from this entire little bullshit statement, little presser he did.
Start looking at sanctuary cities, as I said, If they're not enforcing immigration laws, then why would I be processing immigration in their city and turn them loose in their city? When we start looking at trying to streamline and make DHS more efficient.
It's the same clip. He is a fucking idiot. Okay? Can we just be real? He is a fucking idiot. The guy is just dumb. Plain and simple. He's just dumb. Hey, Shane, how you doing, man?
At least I got a
I know,
Taco
right?
Tuesday. At least
Seriously,
we got Taco
Jesus.
Tuesday. Those barbacoa tacos,
My God.
man, they're amazing. So the idea of the dismantling of social programs, education, and states' rights to regulate their own citizens within their states is all part of dun 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 Project 2025.
2025. Sure is.
And for the MAGA in the chat, I just want to explain this to you. The reason why they keep saying we can't fund social programs, only the military, only law enforcement, is because they want to run the states into the ground so that oligarchs and corporations can buy up your cities. And they can enforce the laws that the corporations want enforced in order to mandate their workers to do what they want. MAGA, you are literally buying in to the Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin playbook of oligarchs owning you.
Correct.
Do you understand this, MAGA? They're painting the picture for you. They're showing you, MAGA, what they want to do. And they've already done it in places around the world, including here in the United States. I just want to remind you guys, Larry Ellison owns a fucking Hawaiian island with the people on it. He owns the people that live on the fucking island because they have no other place to go. He bought the island, the houses, and the businesses that are on it. It's a reality, MAGA. This is what you're doing. You're allowing them to take your freedoms all so that you can own the fucking libs. And you wonder why people like me and Steve and Obi-Wan and the countless others of us get upset with you when you sit there and go, well, yeah, well, what about? Or when you go, oh, well, Biden did that. Obama, no other administration in the history of the United States has acted like Donald Trump's administrations. You cannot ever compare Donald Trump to any other administration. Ever.
Full stop. Correct. Corruption like we've never seen before, including his own son benefiting from a military contract that he became a board member to this company who sells drones and drone technology just days before the invasion. And here we sit.
They're actually wanting to double his contract. So that would, just so we're clear, MAGA, that would be a $1.4 billion payout to Donald Trump Jr. from your fucking tax dollars. And you act like, what? What about Biden? Yeah. I've literally broke this down so many times for so many people on how they are doing this to you. And MAGA, I just want to remind you, you're not owning the libs. They're owning you. The libs aren't being owned by anybody except for the fucking oligarchs that you're siding with and handing the fucking keys to the kingdom to.
Correct.
And once again, Steve,
correct.
Go ahead and ask me the most important fucking question that you ask me every fucking time up here. What do I want for MAGA?
Yeah, what do you want, Shane? What do you want?
Everything that I want for them, I want for me. I want you to have free health care. I want you to be able to take your kids to the fucking dentist and not pay a goddamn paycheck. I want you to be able to look at your country and be proud of it. I want you to be able to look at what we do around the globe and not have to defend it, but to praise it. The fuck is wrong with you, MAGA? Don't you get it? We live in the greatest country on earth and we could have everything that the other greatest countries on earth have, but you keep getting in the way. Get out of the fucking way so I can give you everything that you want. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, Shane. Thanks for being here. Have a good day. Be safe out there. In other words, let women write the sequel. Thank you all for joining today. I appreciate you guys very much for being here. We're going to rate Ash today. I think she's live now. Head on over there if you guys want to see her dog walk young, mediocre men, primarily. Thanks for joining. Tomorrow we'll be back here, regular time, regular place, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you, mods. You guys are the best. Chat, you guys are awesome. I'll do a last plug for the Do Something Tour. If you want to help us out, you can find our pay apps at Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all at Factsstillmatter. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, to our Twitch stream, and also to our Instagram page. You'll find the link to that in there as well. Thank you, friends. I appreciate you guys. Remember, there's always something to do, friends. So please get out there and do something. Doesn't matter what it is.